Hello and welcome to the Knights of Last Call. My name is Derik Melenda, and that, folks, is Bobby B himself, level appropriate damage himself. It's Bob Bumbarger. Bob, how the hell are you, buddy?
Pretty good. A little busy. Just got done taking the kids bike riding and scooter riding, and it was fun, but hot.
Fun but hot. Now, tomorrow is the 4th of July, also known as Independence Day. But your kids are not into fireworks?
I mean, they think it's cool if they wear their headsets, their earmuffs, you know.
But Willowick doesn't do theirs on Friday, or they do it earlier?
No, we don't have it all. Lake County does one at the Captain Stadium.
Yeah.
We've done that a few years, but Mayfield Heights, just south of us, has one every year for their, I forget what they call it, something days. And it's over by Progressive. They shoot them off at Progressive. It's where we used to work. No, wait. Yeah, it's where we used to work. So we just go down there by the park. And that was this past Saturday. We sat there and it was awesome. Great.
So you've already seen a display.
Yep. So now tomorrow we're just doing like the pool and cookout. So at her family's house. So.
Sick. Yeah. I have no idea what I'm doing. I tried to see if Ron wanted to get a racquetball game in the middle of the day because he's off, but he's got family stuff. So
too busy teasing you about Vegas.
Yeah. So it's okay. He got killed. It was totally acceptable.
Hopefully, the place we're going tomorrow has a bocce court in their backyard, so we'll be playing some bocce as well.
Yeah. So hopefully all of you have some nice plans for the weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. Why am I blurry? I'm blurry. My internet sucks apparently. Crystal clear on Zoom.
I don't know. You look good on my OBS.
I don't know, because I got YouTube in the background and it looks like I'm like a little blurry. And then someone said in the chat, and I was like, oh, maybe I am blurry.
If you are, it's literally the image I'm seeing. So
I never. What's that joke? What's Mitch Hedberg? Is that Mitch Hedberg's joke about Bigfoot?
Oh yeah. I'm worried that the problem is Bigfoot is blurry, and that's scarier because that means that there's a large unfocused monster out there. Yeah.
Great joke.
Yeah, it's a fantastic joke. Yeah, thank you, Slatebeard. We got 2 books up there, more to come. The patrons are voting right now to see which books are going to be put up into the places of honor. I did get the bookshelf over, so more on the way. But
so this is directly behind you.
This is directly behind me.
So right in front of you is your desk, and then in front of that is the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. So it's going to fit pretty good.
We'll see.
Sunday.
Do
some testing on Sunday.
Yeah. So regarding the name, so Bob, you ever see Nate Bargatze, the comedian?
Oh, I love that guy.
Yeah, okay.
He doesn't swear. He's family friendly comedian.
Right. So he has this great bit where he's talking about his wife is going to like leave to go to the airport with their kid or whatever.
Great joke.
And he goes, what time are you leaving? And she goes, 12:30. And he's like, it's 12:15. And he's like, I asked her, I was like, I do you even know how an airport works? Like, I think if that plane was in our driveway, I don't think you could make it. And she goes, no, that's what time we're leaving to go to the airport. And he goes, why would you tell me?
Yeah.
Why would you tell me something that it means nothing to no one? Anyways, so I bought this. This is just a communication issue. And again, as often it does, Bob, when we get into, not an argument, but whenever we have to do something, my heart goes out to Stacy because Bob messages me earlier in the week. Okay. And he says, I
gave you my schedule.
Yeah, exactly. You said, this is good. So Bob goes, we're talking about the bot that you broke. And then, and then you said, if you need me tonight, I'll be free. This is like earlier in the week at 7:30. And I say, no, I'm good to go. You go, I'm free tomorrow. This is about Wednesday. I'm free tomorrow after 7:30 PM. I'm free all night Thursday.
Yep.
For now is what you put. So
always.
Which
all my things
which again means nothing, right? Because you're basically saying I'm free unless I'm not. And then I go, okay. I said I could probably work with that. Now I made the assumption that you knew that Thursdays are nights that I stream.
Oh, I knew, but I knew you were also moving.
Okay.
So I was like, is that set up?
So when you said you were free all night Thursday, in my mind, I'm like, okay, so Bob, I'll do a poll. Like, hey, Bob's going to come over. We're going to do some studio work. Then we'll hop on the live and we'll chat with you all for a couple hours. So I'm trying to set this up with Bob today. And he says, hey, by the way, I can make it after 6:15. And I go, okay. Blah, blah, blah. We start talking. He goes, oh, well, I figured we could move stuff over. I go, well, there's no way we'd be back in time. He goes, back in time for what? And I said, the stream, Bob, the stream.
That's the camera on if we're moving stuff.
So anyways, long story short.
I actually did not know you got that bookshelf over either.
I'm a fucking strong man, Bob.
I know. We could have done it with the books on it. Let's go.
Oh, that I do not think of. Rayo Man wants to know, what is the brand or model of the 3D printer behind you?
That one's Bamboo. I don't know how much is on camera, but the one over here is the Mars.
Yeah, you got the Bamboo and the Mars. There's two, actually.
That's the Bamboo P1P.
And then the red one's the resin.
Saturn.
That's the resin.
Oh, sorry, this is Elegoo Saturn, not Mars, but Elegoo. That's resin over here, and then filament behind me. I'm trying to print magical keys right now, but I'm not going to run it while I'm in the studio. It's very toxic.
Self-confessed cynic says, I'm not used to Bob's video and Mike being so clear. This is weird. It should always be this clear, right?
Actually, it might get moved here recently because I used to have a green screen behind me, but that is my brother's taking that back, and so I might re-angle my camera like facing that way, and then maybe put something on that wall back there.
So I will say this: so Bob's camera that he uses is actually one of my very early Canon cameras, and it's a what is it? It's an SP. No, it's a APC camera. It's
EO5.
No, that's not it. It's an EOS, but it's an EOS
Rebel.
Yeah, it's like a Rebel TI or a Rebel 7 or something like that. Anyways, it's an APS-C sensor, which means it's good, but it's not great. And the big problem with a small sensor is they're not very good in low light situations. And Bob, oftentimes, you could see today with the sun,
my top light off.
You have your top light on, and there's white coming in from the windows, so you have a lot of light in the scene, and so that means you're not going to get that grainy features or something like that. As for the sound quality, you used Blue Yeti. Is that what you used?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's been pretty good for the price.
Which is funny because the channel bought Tim an MV7 and it bought Smith an MV7, which are sure.
I had the Blue Yeti for a long time.
I know, it's just funny because you run games and stuff for the thing. You think you would have thought we would have bought you a nice mic.
I'm literally using your camera and I'm using your light.
No, I get it. That's what I'm saying. I think and it's funny that we just never got you a microphone. Anyways,
TBD.
The long point of the story of this is today was supposed to be Bob in our quote unquote studio. Now, of course, the studio right now is just some bare walls and a table, and then an empty bookshelf and the beginning of a streaming station. But that was going to be the idea, is that we are leaving Exile and we're going to settle back down. And it turns out they say you can never go home again, but it turns out that I can, because
at 8:30, if you want, I'll come roll over there and I'll be right inside your house.
Is that when Stacy gets home?
Well, the funeral ends at 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Apparently, everyone just died this week. It's the weirdest thing.
To be clear, no one Stacy knows died. She works at a funeral home.
Yeah, but it's in Wycliffe, so she knows the family of all these people.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. Like the people today came in and they are, oh, Stacy, nice, thank you for being here. And she's like, I gotta work here. But she's just working the funeral today.
By the way, we do have a completely arbitrary super chat and tip goal today, which is better. Super chats that supports Dragonbane, or you can tip for Daggerheart. It's just completely. It's just a what do you like better? It's just whichever do you like better.
Obviously I'd vote for Dragonbane right now because I haven't dove enough into Daggerheart, but I feel like Daggerheart has more legs. It's probably gonna be able to get further.
Yeah, well, we could definitely get into it. I mean, I think one of the things that we've talked about is what is Dragonbane good at, and I think the answer is nothing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It just means that it's a rules light game. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things about any of these games, Daggerheart, I think on the surface is still fairly simplistic. It's not like it's a hyper complex game. But hey, and speak of the devil, Michael comes in with a $10 super chat. Michael, thank you. Happy to support this newly found channel. I thought Michael was saying it's a new found. I was like,
oh yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like, man, been around for a couple years.
yeah. We're going on 5 years, Bob.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is a while then.
We started in the fall of 2020.
You know, your old studio still has that sign.
I sure as shit does, buddy.
I drive by all the time.
Michael says, happy to support this newly found channel. Keep up the Daggerheart content. I was playing D&D using the 3 pamphlets. Daggerheart feels so similar in how it takes a step. My second live stream. Well, Michael, thank you so much for stopping in, and that's awesome that you're dropping some super chats. Michael was dropping some super chats on his first stream, so I appreciate that you appreciating it. And of course, one of the big things that we're going to be talking about here is that there is going to be some Daggerheart definitely being talked about here on this channel.
Oh yeah.
But we have Bob is obviously the Dragonbane master as well. And the thing about Dragonbane is I still like that game. And the answer is I don't, we always talk about GNS in this, which is gamist, narrativist, simulationist. And I don't think Dragonbane has particularly good gamist, simulationist, or narrativist elements to it. But anytime you add mechanics to a game, you make the game more complicated. That's just a fact of, that's just the way it goes. Things slow down. It becomes
it has pros and cons.
It has pros and cons, right? The gameplay might be deeper, right? But
all I know is if I'm reading this right, Vin is supporting Dragonbane in the chat, and that means this game must be terrible.
He says Dragonbane has fast combat and a nice resolution system. It's fast and simple and easy. But I think Dragonbane, for my money, is one of the most efficient game systems ever. Which is, for as simple as it is very, very, very good. Hey, we got a tip as well from Jacob Online.
Jacob Online tipped $5. Dagger Hype.
Dagger Hype coming in with a $5
Dagger Hype is such a good word. I really like that term. I've been trying to. Someone I think told me, but I can't remember. But I wanted to make the Daggerheart symbol, but also like the hype symbol from our channel to combine them, so we could just do like a Daggerheart symbol. Because I don't know if you saw the Daggerheart forge symbol. It looked pretty sweet.
No,
it had like the forge anvil, but the sword was coming through it, I think, of the Daggerheart, and I was like, "Oh, it's pretty sharp." Like,
well, now the real question is, Bob.
I like the Daggerheart symbol a lot.
Well, the Daggerheart symbol is good, but
it's very well done.
Are you a Dragonheart or a Daggerbane guy?
Ooh, it's gotta be. Ooh, I don't know. Daggerbane sounds weird a little bit. I think Dragonheart. No, Dragonheart. Yeah, Dragonheart. Dragonheart. Daggerbane probably rolls better, but I don't like the Bane always threw me off for Dragonbane. So
yeah, well, it's really what? Okay. Here's my problem. Here's my biggest problem with Dragonbane. You know what my biggest problem is with Dragonbane? The name, and I'll tell you why. Because dragons are good and Banes are bad. So which is it? It should be called
Yin Yang.
It should be called Demon Bane.
Well, that would just be bad. What if you want good bad?
Because dragons are good. You roll a nat one.
Boonbane.
Right. It should be called.
Just kept dragon and demons.
Drakar und Dominair or whatever it's called. Yeah. Well,
it's a little tough. Dragonbane rolls nicely. It's a clean, simple name. I did back the crap out of that Kickstarter. Not only did I get the books, but then they released the.
I backed the magic. I backed the magic.
Yeah, I backed the books, but then I also backed. They had all the old maps in cloth. I got all of them. I love the maps so much.
Yeah. Well, okay. So yes, So here's the thing, Spaghetti. It's like calling it Fabula Ultima, where Fabula is good and Ultima is bad. Totally fine. Then call it Dragons and Demons, or call it Dragon Demon, or call it Demon Dragon.
You why they couldn't do it. And Boonbane's just dumb.
So it's demons are bad, dragons are good. You don't want dragons aren't, you're not trying to kill dragons, right? They're like kind of not, I don't know if they're the good guys, but anyways. But I like Dragonbane because you get a lot of juice for the squeeze. Now, is it a lot of juice? No, in my personal opinion. But it is a lot of juice for the small amount of squeeze that you give it, right? So does that make sense? When I talk about a game that's very efficient, like there might be games out there that are better, but you got to put a lot more work into them in terms of setting it up, reading it, knowing how the game system works. Dragonbane just hums, it just cooks.
It's so smooth. Everything just runs so smooth.
Except for the initiative system, which is garbage.
You came over to our table and said that, and then like you left, and everyone's like, "This is still pretty good initiative system." Like, no one cares what you think about it.
Which is, by the way, that's like the classic. That's just like such a classic thing. Hey, Jace, what's going on? The AGM says, buying you lads a coffee, New Zealand quality, not American. Lol. Happy 4th. Maybe New Zealand has some.
No, I don't drink coffee.
Right, I do love some coffee. Thank you, AGM. We appreciate it over here in the States. It's a long weekend. What are you doing? Like the weekend, Bob?
So that's almost all day Saturday or Friday into the night, and then on Saturday, I have a birthday party to go to, and so my brother's coming over, and as you know, so we got the birthday party at 3. So my brother's coming over. We're gonna hang out before go to the birthday party, and then I'm sure he will stay there all night because a birthday party is a time for everyone to get hammered for no reason.
So does this mean Robert will be there as well?
Oh yeah. So they'll all be drinking, and it's actually pretty nice because it's at Nick's dad's house, and Nick's dad's house is like a whiskey connoisseur. He's got like bottles of whiskey everywhere.
Oh yeah. Nick has regaled the channel with stories.
So when I go over there, his dad will have me test stuff. So that's great.
By the way, we're talking about Escanor Nick, for those of you who don't know. So for those of you who don't know, Nick, Escanor Nick is Bob's cousin-in-law.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Because Nick is married to Bob's cousin.
Yeah, what was he in? He was the Badger.
No. Oh, well, he played Vance the Badger.
Yeah, Vance. That's what
in Root, and then of course he played Escanor, the champion in our Pathfinder 2
So
game.
It's his kid's birthday.
Got it.
So going over there, do that, and then Saturday night we'll probably just hanging out here, and then I'm sure my brother will roll in here because I live close to their house, and then Sunday, nothing during the morning. I got church, and then we're gonna do my brother's birthday dinner, and then we're gonna hypothetically move panels.
Right. So we are theoretically supposed to be playing Torchbearer, but I already know that at least 1, maybe 2 people are out because it is the 4th of July weekend. And this is just an opportunity that I know you're free and you kind of already have that time earmarked for games. So instead of games, I'll have you move stuff. And here's the fucked up thing about Bob. He is just as happy moving stuff as he is playing games.
I was ready to move stuff tonight. I was like, let's get the truck. Let's go move some stuff.
Yeah,
so we'll do that, and hopefully, by next week you'll start to see a little bit more. Hopefully, if you guys are paying attention to the channel and on the Discord, you'll see progress shots as we start to get things up and running.
Now, in case you're not sure what we're talking about here, and Bob, you won't be able to see this, but
I could bring up the YouTube.
What I'm talking about here. What's going on?
Premium content you guys all care about.
Yeah, it is, of course. Well, I was trying to get my other camera to work, but apparently it doesn't want to work.
See, we couldn't even do it.
No, it couldn't even work. But what we're planning on doing with the studio is we want to reuse some of the setting panels that we used back in the studio. And turns out my bedroom is big enough that we can put some of those like castle wall pieces that we designed behind us, so that you're not just like staring at a blank white wall, which I think is an improvement. Also, very good for sound, because instead of a hard, flat drywall, it is a foam surface, which is very craggly and full of lots of angles and stuff like that. So, a lot of people are familiar with sound panels, which of course we have, and we will be installing them to help with the audio quality. But what not a lot of people are as familiar with is the fact that actually there's oftentimes diffusers are often part of the sound solution, which is just because you want the sound to bounce around at odd angles. You don't want it to sit there and reverberate between 2 walls. Can I show the stream pics of the new studio?
You said get the one from Discord that you posted and put it on the camera.
Oh, I see.
I think the sound quality, T-Dog, will be pretty good, because we're going to have headsets with dynamic mics like right where our mouths are, so it's not going to be picking up side conversations and echoes.
Yeah,
it should be pretty good actually.
So
I'm less worried about the sound.
Yeah, so we've been through numerous iterations. In the very beginning of the game, the very beginning of this channel, we just used pretty relatively cheap $20-$30 little condenser mics. Then we upgraded to dynamic mics. Now the thing about dynamic mics, like this one, this is a Electro Voice RE20, and a lot of people are familiar with the Shure SM7B, which I don't have, but it's right over there. These mics are very, very insensitive, which sounds bad, but it means that you have to get right on them, and they're pretty good at rejecting noise. And then when you get really close to the microphone, you get what's called a proximity effect, because it really, really amplifies the lower frequencies. So you get that big, very heavy.
Sleep with that voice.
You get that very heavy radio voice. Welcome to NPR tonight.
That's good.
So
then you try giving the microphone to Smith.
Right. So the problem with
Vince got to experience that in person.
Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did.
We were talking about that the other day.
So these mics, and by the way, this is a very good mic. This is an RE20. These mics are really good at rejecting sound. So if I come over here, even just a little bit off, you can see how quickly that falls off. But when we're playing the games, there's a couple of problems. Number one is, when you get 4 or 5 people around the table, having these big, huge microphones and this massive boom arm becomes a bit of it blocks the shot. It also makes it hard for us to access our character sheets and our minis and all that other stuff. So in Root, we tried 2 different solutions. We tried lavalier mics.
That was a failed solution.
It was a failed solution. And the part of the problem with the lavalier mics, there's a lot of problems with the lavalier mics, but one of the biggest problems with lavalier mics is these were very nice lavalier mics, but they weren't professional Hollywood studio grade lavalier mics, which cost thousands and thousands of dollars. These were very high, very high tech, but ultimately still basically using Bluetooth. And so there was a lot of problems with things dropping out and all that other stuff. Then we tried to use, because I wanted to get the microphones out of the shot. I wanted to get them out of the people's hands. Then we tried shotgun microphones. Now, shotgun microphones are microphones that are mounted farther away, and they capture your voice. The problem is it's almost impossible to use them indoors unless you're literally in a professional sound stage. And it's just not, and even then, oftentimes it's very good if you have one person talking. Now, Slatebeard says, I believe Critical Role have shotgun mics pointing down on every player from the ceiling. Slatebeard, they do. And this is what we were going to try to do. Now, to be clear, from the best I can tell, they are using Sennheiser HK 615s, which are like, or 614s, which are like $1,400 per mic. I wasn't going to spend that. That's number one. Number two, I'm like 99% sure they have someone live mixing when they did do it live. And now they don't do it live, so it's even better, where when, let's say, Travis is talking, everybody else's volume is turned down. And then if Matt starts talking, they turn his volume up at the same time that they are turning Travis off. So they can live mix it, so they can prevent the bleed that is going to occur where you get this kind of like, you get this wobbling echo sound, which is what we had a really big problem with. So going back to this new studio, which is much smaller, my bedroom, the best option would be to use these big, huge dynamic mics. But our space is smaller than ever, and with Dragonbane, with Daggerheart, we want to be using miniatures, and that means we're going to have to be reaching around. If you looked at our original Rise of the Rune Lords, where we used miniatures, see, Root we didn't use miniatures, but in Rise of the Rune Lords, Pathfinder 2, we used miniatures, and you had problems.
It was fun.
You had people going off the microphone to move their miniature, and it's like, okay, I'm going to come over here and cast the things, and now we're going to go around, and you had literally people trying to reach, over their microphone and stuff like that. So, some of you on this channel have seen that I have an Audio Technica headset. It's a professional broadcasting set microphone. So, we are going to be trying these. What's
in the box?
What's in the box? This is the Audio Technica BPHS-2A. This is the hypercardioid professional broadcasting microphone from Audio Technica that has a hypercardioid pickup polar pattern and a dynamic mic boom as opposed to a cardioid polar pattern, which means, in theory, it should be even better at rejecting noise than the other one that I have. And so the mic, this is what we are going to hopefully put everybody into. It's going to be one of these. There we go. So it would look like this. So, it's obviously a little bit visually intrusive, but it's, not nearly as bad as having this, gigantic thing.
Well, a couple of things it does is it helps us as we move. We can stay on mic all the time.
Right.
It should control volumes because people sometimes lean back and forward and talk. I mean, Smith still might scream or whatnot, but it will cut down also because you said it's right there. It will cut down on our side noises as well because I'll be sitting next to Tim. It reminds us of sports commentators that they're radio broadcast headsets.
Yeah, to be clear, this isn't the headset that the NFL is using, but this is something that somebody at your local captain's. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to you guys. Somebody at your local
minor league baseball park.
Minor league baseball park. Your local high school, football team, or maybe something like that, right? Like it's a high quality microphone. It's certainly not $3,000. Is there an inline mute? No, but we're gonna add one. So,
another tip.
Hey, thank you, Aaron ZW.
Aaron has tipped $15. I'm just here for the hypercardioid talk. Well, and Bob, haha.
Well, and Bob. Thank you, Aaron. Yes, hypercardioid talk. Yeah, so the hypercardioid. So pickup polar patterns are basically how does the microphone accept or reject noise? And different microphones have different, if you can imagine them as lobes around the microphone that pick up different sounds. Hypercardioids are much more tightly focused in the front than a cardioid polar pattern, which looks a bit like a heart shape, which is why they call it a cardioid pickup pattern. And so hypercardioids are better at rejecting, the side noise. And that's what I really want to avoid. That way, when Bob is talking, if Tim starts talking or Smith or I start talking, it doesn't bleed through and get picked up on Bob's microphone. I don't think so, Vin. There might be some, but yeah. So anyways, session 0 when? Well, Eric Corso, that's going to depend on a couple of factors. So the biggest factor, Eric, is going to be when we can just have all this stuff plugged in. Now, the good news is we own most of this stuff here. And so it's really just about setting it up. A lot of this stuff has been in storage. We moved out of our studio last April, so it's been in storage for over a year. So Bob and I have to go get some of it. Some of it's at my other, unit. I've been bringing it back out just because this has kind of evolved. Daggerheart came out a month ago, basically, and we were kind of like, and then it was kind of like, man, this is really popping off. Okay, we should really start to, put the band together. And I wasn't sure if anybody was even going to be interested in playing, but, kind of out of nowhere, Tim and Smith.
Everyone was.
and even Bob was like, oh, this is pretty sweet. People are really hyped for this. And he's like, I don't know if it'll replace my precious Daggerheart, or Dragonbane, but I'll give Daggerheart a chance.
I mean, I follow the hype.
That is true. You are a FOMO hype master. So we're trying to put this stuff together as quickly as can. Now, I do have Gen Con at the end of this month. And so obviously that's going to be kind of like a gap spot. My hope is, depending on, people's schedules, that we could have session 0 here this month and then start playing in August.
That'd be great if we can do that.
There are some factors of consideration, which is scheduling. So I want to make sure the number one thing that's going to be most important to me is that we can actually, because we're only going to have 3 players. Now that may sound crazy, but I prefer 3 players. I think, here, look, we're among friends here, so we can talk. Like, number one, it's not like this channel makes a ton of money. So, when there's only 3 people, the money that gets split amongst the talent is a little bit better. Number 2, especially in a game that's like narrative, I want my players to have more spotlight time, right? And so, quite frankly, if there's 4 players, each person gets less time. So with 3 players, I get more time per player. Number 2, or number 3, when you have more players, it also means that scheduling becomes much more hard or much more difficult. So 3 players is going to be tough. 4 players is even tougher. 5 players is basically impossible. And, that's our Friday night game, right, Bob? It's 1 GM and 5 players. And
I can't believe we've played as much as we have.
I can't either. It's crazy. So in any case, I think that's gonna really work well for our advantage. And then the 4th consideration is this is a fairly small space. While I think we could fit another player in there, why bother? Like, let's just keep it as let's keep it as minimal as we can.
I thought 4 was like the magic number, and then when we played 3, 4,
Abomination Vaults.
Oh my god! If the combats felt better, let alone we were +1, but the turns went faster because now it's one less person in combat that needed to deal with. Slowing you down and just I felt more engaged. I did not think I'd like 3 as much as I did, and I really did like it.
Yeah, so I've always really enjoyed playing 3 as just a number. I think I really do feel like 2 is not enough. 2's fine, but 2 feels different. 2 feels like a team up. 3 still feels like a party, which is I think pretty cool here. But so yeah, we're gonna try to get people scheduled. But one of the real factors is like we may have to play. I'd love to be able to say we're playing every Wednesday from blank to blank. But the truth is that may not be the case. My goal is just to get the games out there. A lot of people watch on VOD anyways. And so my goal is like if we need to schedule a game Tuesdays and then, this week the game is going to be Sunday, or this week the game is going to be, Wednesday or Friday, so be it. My main goal is just keeping the game going and keeping people, active, so, and that means the viewer is going to be active too. So that's kind of where I'm at for terms of scheduling, but we do have to make sure it works with everybody. Cause Tim's got kids, Bob's got kids, Smith's got kids, so it's a whole thing. I am pretty much always free. So.
Yeah. I'm free until I'm not, like you found out.
Right. I'm free until I'm not, which is just so fantastic. It's mind-blowing.
Someone did mention frames. We are going to talk about that a little bit today.
Yeah, so you want to talk about them, Bob, so we could talk
specifically about because I know that before we were even talking about like who the players are going to be, what are we going to do, where are we filming, what are we going to do, because we want to play Daggerheart, so how are we playing this thing? And they have frames, and like, are we picking one from the book, or are we making up our own? Are we creating our own setting? And I was like, I don't even know what the frames are, but now I have the book. So now I can actually look at the frames, and I did read through them, and I thought, wow, I don't know if we're going to play any of those frames. Only 2 sounded interesting. One is in the SRD, which is the wild, whatever it is. Witherwild, which seemed interesting. Just, dead forest, death forest type stuff, but the other one was the dungeon meshy one. And I was like, okay, well, if we want to have some fun, like that's the one we could do. All the rest of them seemed like not for entertainment. Like they just seemed too complicated or too political to really dive into on a fun stream with our group.
Well, to be fair, Rise of the Rune Lords is a serious game. It's a serious setting, so it's not
everything's serious until we get to it.
Tori coming in with a tip.
Ran my first DH session. This might be my new go-to system.
Ooh.
Would love some suggestions on how to use fear outside of combat/action scenes.
Tori, that's awesome. Tori, thank you for the $5. Tori says that they just ran their first Dagger. Well, for starters, obviously Dagger hype, but then they just ran their first Daggerheart system. Thought that this might be their new go-to system. Would love some suggestions on how to use fear outside of combat and action scenes. Well, Tori,
right up your alley.
Yeah. So the answer is, Tori. Just remember that when you're not there is no such thing as a combat or an action scene per se in Daggerheart. In the sense that like every scene is run and managed the same. What I will say is that in my opinion, fear is your option to sort of take the reins as the game master. And if you are deciding that the current scene doesn't have enough tension, doesn't have enough drama, doesn't have enough oomph, you can use fear to make as hard of a move as you'd like in order to, get the ball going again. Now, when you're outside of combat or you're outside of an action scene, it's possible that you may not want to spend fear because you want that sort of slower pace, that slower burn feel, right? And in a sense, presumably the players are still rolling dice, hopefully. You are going to be making moves and accumulating fear that is sort of setting up the building tension, right? You're sort of hinting at the bad things to come. You might be using more indirect, more soft moves, talking about off-screen threats, hinting at potential dangers. You're sort of building up to the next big sort of release or sequence. I think it is a mistake to try to assume that your goal is to like go, 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 go on every scene. It's not. I think that one of the advantages of fear as a meta currency is it gives you as the GM a lot of leeway and a lot of ability to sort of direct the scene in a way that works well for the pacing that you feel is required at this point in the game. If the players feel like, if the players look like they need a break, you have some options. One is you could give them a break and sort of lay off and kind of let the fear build up. Another option is you could say like, no, I want to keep pushing on them. I want to see them sweat. And you could keep making the game intense. What's ultimately the most important thing here is it's a tool for you to use. So that's sort of how I would say that. That being said, outside of combat, remember, I mean, they give you a great list of GM moves, and you can use fear to make any sort of one of them. From I don't have my PDF or my book open, but you can make things like presenting the players with an opportunity. And you could do that to take away an opportunity. You could advance a clock. You could just inflict stress if you wanted to. But I don't want to get off on a tangent here. But the one thing I think that's really important, if you look at my last stream, I talked about how, though, do not forget that most of the moves that you should be making as a GM in Daggerheart should be because the players looked to you to see what happens. Right? You do not need to spend fear. You do not need to wait for the players to roll dice in order to make a move. GM moves are just another term for GMing. And you don't need permission to GM. In fact, the book clearly states you can make a move whenever you want. Here are some times when you might want to consider making a move. And that includes when the players fail, or when the players roll with fear, or when the players take an action that would have an immediate consequences, or if they give you a golden opportunity, or if the players look to you to see what happens. And let me be clear about this. In most RPG games, the players are constantly looking at you to see what happens, right? I hit and I did 10 damage, and they look at you. Is the monster dead, or is he look injured? Great, they're looking to me to see what happens. I knock on the door 3 times. What happens? They're looking to you to see what happens. I go down the street and I take a look around. What do I see? They're looking to you to see what happens, right? So in all of these situations, they are, looking to you to see what happens. Hey, Eric, thank you so much. Where's the best place to follow the schedule, especially if it might be in flux? Well, Eric, my solution, or my real answer to that would be the Patreon. But because we want other people to be able to follow around with this, as we sort of get the schedule together, we'll probably try to do some sort of posting on the YouTube channel, but there's no real good place that we can like set or make a calendar that I'm aware of, like on YouTube. And so
you can post on YouTube, I can post on X and, threads and stuff like that. But right. I mean, the best place would be Discord, but if we know ahead of time and you were watching an episode, we might at the end be like, and we're playing on Wednesday of next week.
Right. Well, my
we
goal,
might know the schedule ahead of time.
Yes, Eric, our Discord is only for our patrons. Yeah, you can make a schedule on Twitch, Beowulf, but that you can't do that on YouTube. So I will say this is more like behind the scenes stuff, but it's like, so all right, it's a side tangent, but today we were talking about restructuring Daggerheart so that it had 12 levels instead of 10, which I was like, it should totally have 12 levels instead of 10. It's
12.
Such a must. Hey, we got a tip coming in from Edward.
Edward tipped $20. I'm late.
I'm late. Here's money.
After the last stream, I'm so excited for the actual play. Dagger hype.
Dagger hype. 2 dagger, 2 heart. Thank you, Edward, for that. Edward says, I'm late. Here's money. After the last stream, I am so excited for the actual play, Dagger hype. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm hoping to keep it going. And yeah, we'll see. I mean, if this really takes off and is good, I hope it's good. I hope it's good for us. I hope it's good for you guys. I hope it's an opportunity, like I said, to entertain you, but as well to educate you and have some fun with my guys, you know, like hang out and play some games with them. And I've missed being in the studio with these guys, and I think that's a lot of, you know, something that I'm
now.
missing.
Someone did ask, Derek, are you going to put any restrictions on player ancestries? I'm guessing that Eric just joined the Patreon because I just saw it pop up on my screen. I was like, that's the same symbol. I guess he's ready for the schedule.
There you go.
Oh, you could post on the free tier Patreon. That's true.
Yes. So, I mean, we'll try to make sure that people are following around. Hey, Eric. Well, thanks you so much. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you, Eric.
That is very, very awesome. I look forward to talking with you over there in the Patreon. Well, plus, the Patreon is going to be the place. The Discord is. I mean, I spend an absurd amount of time on the Discord, as you will find out. So, just hanging out with me and hanging out with the people is really worth your money. From a scheduling perspective, so I was today joking that the game should have 4 tiers, which it does, but each tier should be 3 levels. There should be tier 1, which should be levels 1, 2, and 3. Tier 2, which is level 4, 5, 6. Tier 3, 7, 8, 9. Tier 10, or tier 4, 10, 11, 12. And I was saying that that would be really, really cool, because then as a community or as a group, even if you weren't playing an actual play, like you could sit down and tell your players like, hey, I want to do a tier 1 to tier 2 game. I want to play 6 levels, or I want to do a tier 2 to tier 3 game, or I just want to do a tier 3 game. And you could set up each tier as its own arc. You know, instead of like one big mega campaign that literally goes from 1 to 10 or 1 to 12, you could kind of tell a complete story in tier 1, which would go from levels 1 to 3. But what I've been saying with my potential cast, aka my friends, aka my players, is I really want to lock down like 6 sessions with the group, bearing in mind that they all have kids and life's a bitch and throws you on a lot of unexpected curveballs. I know this better than most, at least recent, at least in the last year, that sometimes things happen randomly and you don't have any control over that. But what I'd like to be able to do is work out a schedule with these guys that's like 6 weeks in advance, lock in that, communicate that to people, and then commit as a channel to playing those 6 episodes. And then during those 6 episodes, we will have tip goals and, funding goals that'll say basically, if we reach these goals during this 6 episode stretch, we'll play the next 6 episodes. So rather than committing to a 30 session or 40, session or 12 level campaign, what we could probably reasonably commit to is 6 episodes at a time. And then I can ask these guys to commit to 6 episodes. And this ideally would be weekly, or maybe like 3 weeks on, 1 off, 3 weeks on, 1 off.
Yeah, so
and then
2 months.
Yeah, so 2 months. And then after we're finished with that, we might take a little bit of a break, because the idea might be that arc is complete. And if the community has supported the show and has shown that their interest, if we're reaching our goals, we're getting good viewership, then we would naturally say, okay, yeah, we're going to do, part 2. We're going to do the next part. And if we don't, if it's dead and we're getting 25 people watching and we're making $10 a show total, I don't really see a reason for us to continue to go down that path. At that point, it seems like people got what they came for and they don't want anymore, in which case we might change to a different game, or, depending on what people are interested in, play something else. Or maybe Bob and I start playing fucking Kill Team on the show. I don't know,
We apparently have to play, what was the game we just bought?
I don't even know the name of it. I think it's called Champions of Rokugan, but
No, not the board game.
What,
Origins.
Kings of War.
Yeah, apparently we just got playing Kings of War.
I did spend some money on Kings of War.
Are you going to restrict any ancestries? I don't know if you answered that. Sorry.
So the answer is no. It'll basically depend on the session 0. So because and we had this poll last time, which was like, what kind of campaign would you like to do? Now, Vin, who is of course very smart, says that he's like, oh, you guys should do something that everybody recognizes. That way you get the hype of, like you should do Curse of Strahd, but in Daggerheart, so that you get the name recognition. And he's probably right.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Right. He's probably right. But I don't want to do that. And, this channel's never been about doing what makes sense or what is correct. And
hard to keep on the Borderlands.
Right. So then the idea was like, okay, well, if that's the case, would you guys want to do one of the campaign frames in the book? Now, the problem is
I looked at them, Derek. I don't know.
The problem is, I've said before, I don't really like. I like 5 burning banners. That's the one, or 5 burning banners burning. That's the one.
You do like that one?
Yeah, it's very Game of Thrones. It's very, I like that one. But I don't really like the rest of them. I mean, I think they're fine. I think they're cool, but it's just not touchstones that I'm as engaged with, especially things like Age of Umbra and the
Age of Umbra Critical Roles. I don't want to do the same one that they're doing.
But the other problem is that the community,
like sci-fi, I don't want to do that one either.
The community gaming license for Daggerheart says you cannot basically use content that isn't for public consumption. And the only thing that's available for public consumption is what's in the SRD. And the only thing that's in the SRD is the Witherwild. And I definitely don't want to do the Witherwild. So,
okay. I didn't mind it when I read through it. The Colossus one seemed cool because it sounded like fighting giant monsters.
Yeah, and I played Shadows of the Colossus, and I'm fine with that. But like the whole like Old West vibe of it and the gunslingers thing of it was just not really my thing. So,
I mean, the ones that struck the most with me was the Beast Feast because it's one piece dungeon meshy. But as some of the chat said, I think it might, and I think you're probably right, is it probably just leans too heavily into it, even though, man, our group does love cooking. Like it is one thing that we excel at. Just to make it entertaining might be kind of boring. So I don't know. The Wild Feast or whatever it is, it was fine. Witherwild, but knowing our group, I think it'll be more fun to sort of create our own. Plus, it also lends the idea that we could do stuff on the Patreon or something.
Right. Well, overwhelmingly, when we did a poll and we had a couple hundred people, and I think we had like over 100 people answer the poll, they said, yes, I want to see you guys, do a session 0 or even like a multi-session 0 and like, kind of collaboratively build a world. And then, so in that respect, we would sort of kind of construct our own campaign.
Does it have guides in here to build your own world? So you're gonna have to go to this.
Well, the thing about campaign frames is they're not really they're not campaign settings. Gotcha. They are very rough outline of what a campaign is. And so in that respect, that's kind of like what we do when we make, our collab. Like when we built our Fabula Ultima campaign, we didn't like really detail out the structure of it. We just sort of set up the core themes and some of the big players and some of the big ideas. You know what I mean?
There's one page about like pitch the campaign, provide the foundations,
right,
guide their characters, build the map, run a session 0, begin the adventure.
Right. So
that's fine.
But yeah, so, and I've always enjoyed doing those processes with, like when we did Fabula Ultima and in past.
Anytime we bring out like a microscope-esque type stuff, oh, it's so much fun. Like what was that sci-fi game we played?
Starforged.
We played that. I had more fun building the world than I had playing the game.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, the other thing too is campaign frames provide an opportunity to sort of restrict or constrict certain mechanical options in the game, or even create new mechanical subsystems for the game. And so the long answer to the question is the ancestry restriction will totally depend upon what kind of campaign frame that we build. If we build legally distinct, totally not Middle Earth, but it's totally Middle Earth, then obviously, goodbye to ribbits and fungrels. If we build something different, then maybe anything goes. If we build Pathfinder 2 in Daggerheart, then yeah, you could be any fucking weird ass race you want to be. So it's really going to come down to that and kind of come down to the style and the tone and the genre. And that's something too that I need to take my cues ultimately from my players. They're the stars of the show here. As the GM, I'm just, I'm behind the camera, right? So they're the ones who, these have got to be issues and themes and ideas that they want to explore.
Jewel of the Indigo Isle.
So, so I think that the answer is it's going to kind of depend on what these guys are interested in doing and seeing and playing with. They might want something super serious. They might want something a little bit more, tongue in cheek. And
I'm leaning more of the tongue in cheek, but that's me.
But do you run any tongue in cheek games?
I mean, no, but when we play, I just have more fun goofing than I do Like, again, I say that, but then like, you know, Legend of the Five Rings was one of the most fun I had, which was like super intrigue,
Right.
political. But, you know, when we're being silly and, you know, Kaz is being goofy, I kind of have a lot of fun. So if the campaign is a little more goofy, I don't know, I want to go kill some monsters and, you know, change the world, whether it be good or bad. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that, you know, don't confuse fun with interesting, right? And a lot of times the problem is things that are very fun tend not to be very interesting in the long term. You know, it's like, oh, this is fun. And it's like, okay, do you want to do this tomorrow? And you're like, well, no. And like, it got old pretty quick. You know, it got stale. So, you know, there's definitely a social element to the game. As a Timmy, that's part of the reason that they play games, is just to be able to have the social element of that. So,
I mean, I enjoy that the most usually.
Right. So, I mean, you're a Timmy through and through, Bob. There's no doubt about that.
We did have a question on Twitch from one of our Prime subscribers.
Okay.
Hello, longtime VOD viewer over here. Loving the content. As always, want to ask a question that I had in my mind. How important do you think narrative implications of hope and fear are in terms of judging Daggerheart as a system? I'm referring more to when hope or fear is rolled itself. I've had people tell me they stopped using it to guide the results of the roll and just use success/fear.
Oh, no. No. I think you should absolutely use the results.
Figured you'd have an opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, this is you know, this is giving you your answer. I mean, I think the most important thing about this is, remember that awarding someone a fear point, the GM taking a fear point, and I think somebody taking a hope point, that doesn't have any sort of impact on the fiction. But you have to make it seem like something happened that sort of made it feel more hopeful or made it feel more fearful, right? Because you need to sort of represent that mechanic in the fiction. And the game, I think, does a very good job about this, about describing that if a player succeeds with fear, the idea is that they have succeeded, right? But there is some sort of new problem or new consequence that it kind of comes up as a result of it. Similarly, if a player fails, but with hope, they may not have succeeded in their attack, but maybe they have inadvertently created a new opportunity, or sure, they missed the enemy, but now they were trying to get his attention, you know, and they've got it, right? So they missed, but they succeeded. And then obviously it also sets up a situation where when you fail with fear or when you succeed with hope, you get the worst of both, or you get the best of both. And I think that that should inform and sort of everybody's sort of play pattern and play style. Again, I talked about this at length, and I could probably talk about it for many, many hours, and I still think people, rightfully so, would have a hard time with it. But I think it's important not to get too caught up in the meta currency component of Daggerheart. It's important, but ultimately your job as a GM is to just reinforce the fiction. If you do something while following your principles and agendas, so that's the tricky part. But if you do something and everyone goes, yeah, that seems like that's exactly what would happen, then you're doing it right, because that's what it, you know, sort of feels like, you know. Again, it's because it's not about, the other thing too is you have to remember that there's going to be a lot of people out there who are used to playing games, whether they want to admit it or not, that were about winning and losing. And by that definition, the GM was kind of there to make them lose. And so it's natural to assume that the only thing keeping the GM from fucking you over is the rules, right? And that mentality is actually pretty prevalent in a lot of games and a lot of communities, is that the rules are there to keep the GM in check from fucking the players over. That's like the way that a lot of people think about it. And then some GMs even think that the rules are there to keep the players from fucking them over. Daggerheart doesn't have those kind of safety rules. It doesn't have those kind of safety things. Like, it just doesn't. And so you have to understand in this game that as a GM, I'm not there to fuck you over. In fact, I'm there to be a fan of the PCs in some ways, but I'm also there to fill your life with danger and excitement and adventure. And so, you know, a great example is when we were playing Dungeon World. Now, you may not have seen this episode because it was only available to our patrons, but Bob we played Dungeon World for one of Bob's birthdays. And, you know, Bob, I think, missed. Bob attacked and missed. Mm-hmm. And the result was the orc kicked him off of the side of the cliff, and Bob went over, and Bob said, okay, I'm going to reach into my backpack and grab my crowbar to to grab myself before I go over the edge. And I said, great, you do that, but you lose, your backpack falls off and, falls down the ravine and gets, scattered hundreds of feet below on the rocks in the small river. And, Bob was like, oh, like, this is sick. Now, like, if Bob was trying to win that game of Dungeons and Dragons, he would naturally be upset because I've just taken away valuable resources from him. I put his character in a very compromising situation. I took away his backpack. And I did all of this because he missed with an attack. And so if Bob was thinking that the game was about me trying to beat him and him trying to beat me, he might naturally go, what the fuck, Derek? What are you doing?
You just killed me.
Like, you just fucked me over. You didn't even roll dice. Like, you just decided that? Like, that's very unfair. But that's not what that game was about. That game was about creating awesome sequences and awesome scenes and these really cool moments that you might see in a movie or read in a book. And I think we've all seen.
Except for run up a sword. That just doesn't exist.
Not in my game. Get punished. Shout out to King Hodop, who was like, I finally saw that episode, and when I thought the whole time it was, an ogre's blade, and it turns out it was just an orc's blade. Like, how are you running up this? And so, yeah. So, anyways, I think what I'm doing there is I'm not trying to fuck Bob over. I'm not trying to beat Bob. I'm trying to put challenges and obstacles in Bob's place, and I'm following the instructions and the suggestions that the dice are giving me. And I am just going with my gut and trying to follow my best instincts. Yes, Rayo Man, the Dungeon World game is in our Patreon exclusive playlist. It's called the Patreon bonus list. You can find it in a couple different places on the Discord as well as on the Patreon page itself.
If you're a Night Tier or higher, you get it it's in the bonus episodes. And it might be called Bob's Birthday Bash. And that's the Dungeon World game. And it's just one episode where Smith drank and we could level up by drinking shots. And it was super fun, though.
Right. It was Dungeon World, but also you could gain levels by drinking copious amounts of alcohol. So there was that. And so, yeah. So, and by the way, as a side note, I don't think people are wrong for believing that you can win or lose D&D, because the fact of the matter is you can lose D&D, right? And the way that most games of D&D or Pathfinder 2 are set up, it's like, well, the enemy's going to try to come and kill us. And if I don't play well, we're going to die and it's going to suck and we're all going to lose. So it's natural that people want to, win, because losing is such a high price. But if you die in this game, you just choose avoid death. So it's like, there's really minimal consequences for playing.
Also I'm just sort of reading comments here, but also your players have to buy in, I think, on that concept too, that if you're like, I'm going to create interesting scenarios here that are going to test you, like you keep putting like my family members, like, like it turns out he's your brother. What are you going to do? And I'm like, okay, now I got to think about this. If your players are going to be like, I don't want to think about that. I just want to go, murder hobo. Well, then a PBTA style game might not be the right answer either. But if your players do buy in, and I think you had a great buy-in for Root from like me and Smith and Nick and Dirt, it's like, okay, I can really move with the flow of this campaign. Like, I am joining the snake cult. Like, I'm going all in. And then, Smith makes me have to make a decision where I'm changing my character on the spot. And if I was like, no, Derek, I want to be the snake cult. Figure it out. Like, that's going to be rough.
Right.
And I'm able to flow with that, and it makes it way more interesting and fun. And
I had no idea that you were going to go. Yeah, I had no idea that you were going to go, try to infiltrate the snake cult. And then
I didn't until it started happening. And I was like, I'm totally in.
Right. And that was also because, you're kind of an instigator. You kind of like,
I love it.
You like to just kind of push buttons and see what happens. And
I think I really started to feel that after I, got away from PF2 a little bit, because it just seemed like you could have a lot of fun when you do these interesting things. Like, I'm not necessarily dying, but like losing my bag over the hill was like, well, now what am I supposed to do? Well, I didn't think I had to think about that, but now I do, and it's kind of cool.
Right. And that attitude is going to be something that if you're new to running this game or playing this game, by this I mean Daggerheart, you're gonna go through some growing pains, either with yourself or with your group, where you got to get used to a flack. So a great example of this might be, we could be playing Daggerheart, and Bob goes to use some ability, and I basically say like, yeah, I don't think that would work right now, because in the fiction it doesn't make any sense, or that this would work. And Bob goes, but I have the card. I took the card. The cards say I do thing. And I go, yeah, I know that that's what the card says. But in this game, it's whatever the fiction. You know, it doesn't make sense in this imaginary world that we're creating. And right now, I don't think that makes any sense. I mean, we could definitely have a conversation about it. My word is not absolute law here. But, you know, the GM is kind of where the buck stops. But ultimately, you have to understand that this isn't a game where, you know, it'd be like playing baseball, right? And, you know, they decide on a hit. They're like, you know what? We're not going to call the infield fly rule this time because I think it's going to be really cool, right? Well, in a fiction first game, you can do that. Yeah. You can be kind of like, well, in this instance, I don't think that rule should apply because it doesn't really make sense. You know, whereas in a mechanics first game, you play the game assuming that these rules and mechanics are in place and you are making very important decisions about your success or failure based off of those decisions. And so people get this kind of upset thing. By the way, no one is immune to that. Okay. I am mostly now because I just really don't care. But like all of us have been in situations where like we're good players. And we know what the rule is, and we know that our GM is not following the rule, and we understand that is their prerogative, and we just try to put on a good face, and we try to smile, and we try to understand that, yes, okay, it's the GM's prerogative to say that this doesn't work or this does work, but deep inside, we're going like, I can't wait to go on Reddit later and bitch about my GM, right? Like we've all been there, you know, again, not me in a very long time, but back in the day, sure, I used to be like that, like, that's not how that rule works. And it's because we perceive the rules as a way for us to sort of engage fairly or equitably against the threat, and the threat or the enemy or the foe. And the foe is the game master or the dungeon master, whether we want to admit it or not. That's the way we perceive it, especially when you come out of a game like Pathfinder or D&D. So, we got some questions here. What do I think about Dungeon World 2? Is it going to be affected by Daggerheart? I mean, do I think their design is going to be affected by Daggerheart? No, not at all. I think Dungeon World 2 is Dungeon World 2, and I think that they're going to do what they do. I don't think Dungeon World 2 is ever going to be a huge thing anyways, so I don't think it's going to be affected much at all. I mean, Dungeon World 2 is taking a very, very, different outcome. I will say that Dungeon World 2 is still, at the end of the day, a PBTA game. But I mean, games like Chasing Adventure and Unlimited Adventure, stuff like that, I mean, they've been around forever, Homebrew World. So like Dungeon World 2, in my opinion, is just those games basically cleaned up and officially codified with an official moniker of Dungeon World on them. So I haven't been paying as much attention to the blog articles recently, but ultimately Daggerheart is doing something different. Because Daggerheart is for people who want to play a PBTA game and want to do the narrative game, but they also sometimes want to be like, and then my rogue teleports through the shadow into a middle of a group of minions, and I make an attack roll, and I hit them, and I get to roll a damage roll, and I get to kill them all. You could do that stuff in PBTA, but in PBTA, it's usually just sort of like hand wavium, right? Like where you just go, I don't know, roll 2d6. Did you roll 10 or higher? Okay, yeah, cool, fine. They're all dead. And like, it doesn't really matter because you know that those monsters didn't really have stats. Whereas in this game, they do, Kalana said, I figured it out. Bob's camera isn't blurry. It's just not as good as Derek's.
I mean, Derek's camera is going to be better for sure.
So the lens on Derek's camera was probably more expensive than Bob's computer.
What are we talking here?
27.
That's more expensive.
All right. So
that's $2,300.
All right. Props to you. That's more money than I thought you were going to spend.
Oh, no. When I bought this computer, I said, I might have to edit YouTube videos, like pump this bad boy up.
All right. That I was thinking you were going to tell me like 1,300 or 1,400 or something like that. So
no. I spent a good money on this one. This is my second one. And the first one I had for game, and I also game a lot. So I wanted decent graphics and stuff like that.
The camera body is my R5. Yeah, Aaron. The original R5. Did they come out with an R5 Mark II? I don't remember if they did. Anyways, it's the original R5. But yeah, so what were we saying? Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm answering a Twitch question.
No, that's fine. It's fine. Anyways, the point is Daggerheart exists to sort of fulfill a unique niche that just doesn't really have a good place in there. What lens do I have on there? I have the RF 24-70 f2 date L.
So we're gonna do this. So we're gonna get together and we're gonna do a session 0, and we're gonna flesh out this campaign world. I guess I'm just hoping it's not like dark and gloomy, like that. It's like that. There's heroes.
Well. That's part of the first process
I know.
of creating a sort of collaborative world is creating that palette, right? And this is sort of a microscopism, right? Where you sit there and we talk about themes and tones and genre. Mm-hmm. And Smith, he loves to go dark and gloomy.
I know, and I want to go the opposite.
But
be like anime heroes,
right? And to be fair, Daggerheart, for what it's worth, Daggerheart definitely leans more towards anime heroes. I mean, if you're a rogue, level 1 rogue in Daggerheart, you could be a Nightwalker and have the ability to teleport through the shadows. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it is very, it's more, magical fantasy than it is grim, grim dark.
Yeah, I don't want grim dark. I want magic fantasy
of the sort of the universe here. Synchros, thank you for the $5 super chat.
Not sure if you meant to say anything.
I don't know if you meant to say something, but if you want to shout us out there, or say something, I'd love to.
So Vin, self-fascinated. We are not going to probably use one of these campaign frames. We're going to make our own. Yeah. I don't know if any of these even fit. Like Derek liked the 5 banners one, 5 torch banners or whatever it is. 5 banners burning. I like the Beast Feast, but that might be too goofy. And I don't know what Smith and Tim like. So
I'm Cranley. I'm actually going to say a couple things. One is, I obviously I'm really into Shadow Dark, and I've been working. I've wanted to create a Shadow Dark mega dungeon, Project Shadow Deep, on this channel. I do agree that OSR has that fun element of the fantasy superheroes. My problem with most people's take on fantasy superheroes is that most people are playing fantasy superheroes in game systems like PF2 and D&D, which I actually think are very bad at doing fantasy superheroes, because it's a really strange juxtaposition where your characters are very strong, but yet you could still just die and then the campaign is over. It's a very weird mix for me to play these kind of games, because it's like, am I an anime superpower badass or am I not? You know what I mean? And it's very strange for me, because even these modern D20 trad games are really, sort of like in this weird middle ground where it's like you're really powerful, but then they're like, but you got to track rations. And it's like, I can, you're like, I can punch people through the clouds. Like, why am I tracking rations? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So, yeah,
I got to make a climb check.
Right. Like, I mean, I was bitching about that at our last PF2.
What made me think of it.
Yeah, I was bitching about this at our last PF2 game session, where I was talking about, like, you can go back and watch this on YouTube. It's the moment that PF2 kind of died for me. It was during Quest and Kaz, our buddy Kaz, we were playing Quest for the Frozen Flame, and his and by the way, Kalana, Heidi in chat says effing PF2's climb, swim, sneak. Yeah, exactly. So this is literally what it is.
Pick lock.
Yeah,
I don't. Lock's in there. Pick lock's awful.
Pick lock's pretty horrible. If you watch this episode, I don't know which episode it is. I think it's like episode 5 or something of Quest for the Frozen Flame, and our buddy Kaz, who's just a great guy and full of energy and lots of funny ideas, and Kaz will tell you he's sincere, but he's not serious. Right. Yes. He's sincere, but he's not serious. He's a great guy to play games with. And we're playing Pathfinder 2, and they're the heroes are defending their tribe, and they get attacked by burning mammoth attackers or raiders. And I think this was like a fight down by like the water or something like that. And his big barbarian, his 7-foot barbarian, like he's like, we've got this cool map, it's got some terrain, and his barbarian's up on top, comes out of the bushes, kills this one guy. And then he wants to go down and save his ally. But his ally is at the bottom of this cliff. And the cliff is like an 8-foot drop.
Yeah, I was thinking like 10 feet or something. It's like just taller than him.
Yeah, it's just taller than him. And he's already spent one action. But per the rules of the game, he would need to like jump and then use an action to jump, and then that would land him where he was, but he couldn't do a running jump because he was standing still, even though he had just moved. And so the best option for him to do was just to fling himself off the cliff. But because it was 8 feet, he was going to take, or like whatever, he's going to take 4 points of falling damage, which means his character was going to fall prone, which means his entire turn would have been fling myself off the cliff, take a couple points of damage, and then spend my third action standing up. And of course, what we all wanted him to do was to like leap off of the cliff with this massive barbarian beast. He was a animal barbarian. Animal instinct barbarian, jump off the cliff, axe in his hand,
Yeti barbarian,
sail through the air, cleave another guy in half. And I just realized that moment that my tendency as a GM, never in my entire life had I so badly just wanted to be like, like throw the Pathfinder 2 set away, grab Dungeon World, and just.
But Daggerheart, you'll be able to do this.
Correct.
There's nothing.
Yeah, correct.
And that's what's so nice about you can just.
Right, because
it.
It was a situation where I go, I want this to happen, right? You want this to happen. The people watching it want this to happen. Every single person here wants this to happen, except for Mark Seifter. Like that's the like this is the one person that doesn't want this to happen. And here's the thing, I understand why those rules are in place because they're there to protect you from abuse. Mm-hmm. But I want to be abused, I want my players to abuse me. I want to abuse my players a little bit. I'm a mature person, right?
Right, clip that.
Give me the BDSM RPG. All right. So yeah, Ken, spotlight that barbarian. This was a huge moment for the barbarian. And, I just wanted to really keep on it and let him have a big, I like to bind. I like to be bound. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
Synchros did have a chat
that
they tried to put in, but they hit it too soon. But I've been struggling with the cognitive load running DH.
Okay.
Whenever fear is rolled and I feel compelled to come up with something on the spot, it feels burdensome. That's a PBTA type thing, right?
It absolutely is a PBTA thing.
Yeah. You just get better over time.
Yep. You just get better over time. Remember this, Synchros. At the end of the day, if you play it, basically is just like you take a fear and nothing else happens. At worst, that is what happens in D&D. If you think of a cooler idea later, spend the fear and do it. But the whole idea of this, Synchros, is really kind of teaching yourself to have an instance of where in any sort of moment or combat, especially in sort of movie, it's very rare that someone could fail and nothing happens. And so really thinking about what would be cool here? What would be awesome at this moment? And sort of how do we get more comfortable with doing that? And so you're absolutely right to feel a little bit of burden and to feel a little bit uncomfortable doing that. It takes, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't always get it right or great or perfect either. Sometimes I'm in a jam and I just make up something and I have no idea where it's going to lead, and it ends
sometimes
up.
Also, the players can help.
Right.
Like we all kind of sometimes like, oh, I feel like this, and you're like, that totally makes sense. Like, of course you would do that or this. I've seen you do that so many times where you and Smith will just work together to kind of like create what's happening.
Yeah.
Also, I did see Beowulf's comment.
I just want to say one more thing.
Oh yeah, keep going.
So one of the things that remember, this is again, you got to think about this. This is not about balance. The rules of Daggerheart are very explicit about this. It basically says, well, it doesn't basically say, it does say, you can make a move whenever you want, but you should consider making a move when X, Y, Z, A, B, C. If somebody rolls with fear, you are not technically obligated or required to make a move. If you don't think that is going to serve the scene or make sense, or you don't have anything good to put in there, don't feel like you are required by the system, to punish them and say, well, I got to do something, take a stress. I mean, you could do that, but I would advise you not to do that unless you can think of a reason for why they're taking the stress. Because if you're not tying that mechanic back to the fiction, then what are we even doing here? And if that's the case, you should stop playing the game. The whole point of this game is to weave a tapestry between the mechanics and the fiction, the fiction and the mechanics, the mechanics and the fiction. And if you can't, at the end of the day, tie that back to the, to the fiction, if you can't describe it, if you can't make the players at the table or who are maybe even watching, kind of feel it and go, yeah, like I understand why that character is taking stress. If it's just sort of like, I don't know, I'm take a stress. When you do that, you're separating the mechanic from the fiction. And it's not about the mechanic and the balance, and I've got to make sure that they're taking the appropriate amount of stress. That's not what's important. What's important is that we're telling and building a compelling world and a compelling story. So actually, it's the second part that is more important than the first part. It just so happens that what's cool about RPGs is that it's storytelling and world building and a game at the same time. And that's what makes this, genre of games so interesting and so compelling.
Well, and hopefully also during our AP, you'll be able to see that.
Hopefully.
Derek doing that, and we can educate everyone in seeing how it's done, because again, I'm not a good PBTA type GM. I'm more into these rules, but playing with my kids and stuff like that, you kind of flow with it. So, I gotta start dabbling in there and trying to work on that. I do want to, before you stole Beowulf's spotlight, as he said, I did want to joke that he mentioned Monster Hearts, and I was like, all right, frame idea, high school. That's what we're doing. We're just going with the high school frame.
Right. You are a human. You are a hero, but you're secretly a ribbit seraph. And, but the gym teacher is being mean to you because, his daughter is head of the cheerleader squad, and he's
Beowulf's like, oh my God.
See, I secretly think that Beowulf's real RPG goal is he's like, I just want to be the head of the cheerleader squad in high school, and I never got a chance to be that, and I just want to be that. And that's Beowulf. See, Beowulf, he keeps saying like, oh, it can't be Monster Hearts, it can't be anime. Like, that's what you really want, Beowulf. It's okay, just admit it. But yeah,
it helps, Synchros.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's something that you're going to just learn to sort of go with the flow. I mean, the instinct is to sort of forget the idea of, this mechanical balance, and I don't care what my monsters aren't there to provide a challenge. What does providing a challenge even mean in a game where the players can just avoid death? It literally means they're like, ha ha ha, I got you, bitches. I got you all to 0. Ha ha, I finally beat you. And you're all like, everyone in the party's like, yeah, we avoid death. And it's like, oh, well, shit. Okay. So it's like, it's pointless. I can't kill the players anyways. So, what am I going to do? I mean, so my job isn't to, and you might say, but Derek, there's combat rules. Yeah, there are combat rules, and they're just as unimportant as any of the other rules here, because it's just fiction, and it's not about what is balanced, and it's not about trying to optimize my adversary's DPS. It's about what's coming on and what's going on and what's cool, and just being vicious with it, being feral with it, and creating intense moments, and feeling the flow of the game, and then responding to that. Mateo, I completely respect that. Mateo says my players would 100% be bored if I didn't challenge them, in quotes, in combat. But I think it's definitely going to differ from table to table. Now, you say that, Mateo, and I'm genuinely curious about this because I want you to answer. If you played in a very, very balanced gaming system where the players were 50-50 to win, okay? So in other words, like a game of
appropriate damage.
Well, no, like a game of chess or like a game of Warhammer or a game of Kill Team, right? Where it's like, it's not like one side has the advantage. It's going to come down to luck, skill, builds, strategy, tactics, right? But when you sit down to play Kill Team, it's not like, all right, Bob, I've got 200 points of minis and you've got 1,000 points of minis, and you're like, of course you're going to win. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just here to make it seem cool for you, I'm just curious how your group would respond to a game like that. So RPG PhD says, whenever I think of the Ribbit, I think of Frog from Chrono Trigger. So when the people were shouting for Bob to play the Ribbit, and Bob was like, I don't want to play the Ribbit. And I was like, well, maybe we can get Tim to play the Ribbit. And Tim said, I would totally be a Ribbit, motherfucking Frog from Chrono Trigger. That was exactly Tim's respect, you know?
That's 100% true. So we'll probably have a Ribbit, but it ain't gonna be me.
So yeah,
I don't even know all the ancestries.
Eric said, at the end of our first major encounter, I died, but it was a final stand attack from the boss. It didn't feel right to stop my story in that moment. I was glad I could just say, no, I live. And you know what? Yeah, that's awesome. I agree. I thought we looked at that, Bob. I thought we had the...
we talked about me being like a giant dwarf.
Oh yeah, we talked about you being
like super cool. I didn't actually like dive deep into like what each of these are like. I'm sort of looking at it now, but I just know that I don't really care to be the Ribbit.
Let me see here. Daggerheart SRD.
I mean, a giant would be super cool because
this doesn't.
I mean, that sounds awesome, but
I don't know why this doesn't have our.
Yeah, I mean, I just have no desire to be a Ribbit. An orc, cool. And if I did the dwarf giant, which would be pretty funny and cool because it's like my two favorite things.
I mean, it would be funny. You have to admit that.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Fairy sounds sweet. I mean, just because of my daughter.
What is that?
Loves fairies.
Oh, I was like, what does that have to do with anything?
No, I mean, she's obsessed with fairies.
Really?
Some of the stuff I print is just like fairies over and over again. I printed her a big fairy house that like comes in 3 levels, so she could take them apart.
Let's see. We've got humans, right? I mean, we've got elves. We got all the normal stuff.
Yeah, humans, elves, halflings. There's like the cat people. Looks like there's some demon people, like these Infernus people. Are all these in the SRD or no?
Yeah, I think so. Dracona. Those are like our Dragonborn. Clanks
there's
are
orc.
Dwarfs. Fairy, elves. Furbolg are like cow people, I guess.
The Sama is like an ape type person.
Yeah, Simia.
That's kind of cool.
Simaya.
Goblin, don't really care. Galapa turtle, don't care. Fungrel could be cool.
Okay, so here we go. Here, somebody asked about what
Urborg, nope.
Somebody asked what the Ribbits do. So here we go. The Ribbits are amphibious. They can breathe and move naturally underwater. And then they have long tongue. You can use your long tongue to grab onto things within close range. That's like 25 feet, by the way. Mark a stress to use your tongue as a finesse weapon that deals D12 damage.
I mean, that's a lot of damage. But
it is a lot of damage.
It's just dumb. He looks dumb. I mean, the concept art looks like something I'm not interested in. Don't want to hate on it. But the Simia looks kind of baller, but I don't know anything about it. It just looks cool. And they have advantage, or they're natural climbers. So Cash should have just been that's a good pass to climb check.
Well, the other thing too is, I'm not so the other thing, to be honest with you all here at home. And by the way, Bob, we got you on the stream.
Yeah. What's up? What you need?
No, I'm just thinking. I'm checking.
Dude, people are leaning me into this brawler.
I'm checking.
I was thinking witch, and then I watched her stream, and I'm like, I don't think the witch is that cool.
We got 165 people. Looks like we got 41 likes. I'm going to tell you this, folks. If we can get to 75 likes, so if you haven't liked the show, like the show. If we get to 75 likes, I'll give away another copy of Daggerheart.
Okay.
So
you running low on those yet?
No.
Oh man,
they hooked me up. So let's get the likes in, and we'll do another giveaway. Now, as before we do our foreign friendly. This is a 4th of July giveaway only. So this is USA only. I apologize. We will try again. I'm sorry. Getting one to Europe is expensive. Getting one to South America or Australia or New Zealand is like unbelievably expensive. But okay, Mateo answered my question. Thank you, Mateo. I'm sure my group would enjoy a balanced game like Warhammer, but if every combat was without challenge in Daggerheart, they'd get bored. Of course, some you're going to just steamroll. And that's the thing that I think is really cool, because in my experience, when a game isn't about challenge, it actually makes it easier to challenge the party. Now, does that make sense, Bob?
I am responding to a comment on... I'm just going to respond to it live. Albastine, no, the sketch art does not look cool for the Ribbit. Sorry, I was typing in. You
Sorry.
said
This is why we
without
can't
challenging him, it's challenging him.
By the way, this is why we can't have chat up when we're playing the game. By the way,
I did not question you on that. You're like, we can't have that. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally distracted by the chat. My go-to fantasy archetype DM Rawlings is dwarf. It's almost always what I go with.
Yeah, but what kind of dwarf? Like a dwarf?
Depends, I guess, on the
dwarf wizard.
Oh no, it's almost always I'm never usually a spellcaster, so I'm always some kind of. I mean, I was a dwarf alchemist until I became a dwarf barbarian.
And I told you don't be a dwarf alchemist, and then
I'm going to be asking you what you think I should lean into before I pick something.
No, well,
stupid.
we can talk. We can talk about that for sure.
Well, so I mean, I wanted to play. What's the cleric one? The seraph.
The
seraph sounded cool.
I mean, look, ultimately, you should definitely just go with what sounds cool. I mean, that is definitely the case. I mean, there's some considerations about, at the very least, do you like the kind of, powers and abilities that class gets? If you don't, that's a bad idea. Well,
I liked playing we played PF2 once, and I was this.
Well, we played it more than once.
One time when Smith killed us, I played this religious sorcerer, and it was so fun. And I really liked that.
Is this the guy that worshipped the dragons, sky dragons?
Yep, the sky dragons, the sky keepers. And I really thought that was super cool. And I loved that. Like, I liked RPing as this sort of like cleric priest person in town. But then I'm like, am I gonna really want to be like a buffer healer person, or am I gonna want to go in there and brawl? Like, and then the brawler, everyone's like, oh, the brawler's super sweet. And you were talking about like customizing the way the brawler works. I'm like, oh, now it sounds even better. Like, I feel like I should just go into brawler. But then I'm like, I kind of lose the aspect of, this idea that I thought I could really role play something different. And I'm always this barbarian person when I play. So I don't know. I just don't want to get in a seraph and we're like, okay, we're doing 6 sessions, Bob. And I'm like, I hated it after 1 session. Like, I want to be the brawler. Right.
Yeah, and also,
I mean, none of the other ones really. I mean, I don't want to be the rogue. I don't want to be a bard. I don't want to be a wizard, sorcerer, druid. None of those things. It was going to be like, ranger. Maybe I'd try a new ranger because I always test out the rangers in every class. But like seraph, guardian, warrior, somewhere in that range was where I was leaning. Right. And the brawler is, I think, sort of in the warrior area.
The brawler is a bone valor. So those are both
valor.
So those are actually both martial schools, which means it's not a spellcaster at all.
Correct, which is where I'd be leaning towards anyways.
Yeah.
I'm not playing a brawler Galapa.
Is that the turtle people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Steve, creating a guardian brawler, remember, you have to be level 5 to multi-class. In fact, one of the things, Steve, we were actually talking about this today in the Patreon Discord, is while I like that you can't start the game, obviously multi-classing, given that it's a 10 level game, I actually would prefer it if you could multi-class at level 3. I think level 5, which is halfway through the game, is a little bit too. I like that it's not level 1, and I like that it's not like even level 2. I just think it should be level 3 or something like that. I think it shouldn't be halfway through the game.
You're trying to customize this game, Derek?
Well, I mean, if I had my druthers, I would just make the game go to level 12. But just because it's 12, that's so cool. But yeah, I think multiclassing is actually really, really cool in the game. I just think that it.
Well, I mean, I could also be some kind of brawler monk that is a devotee. When I get to multi-class, I can fall into the seraph. I sort of at that range, or level 5, whatever we end up doing.
Right. Yes, Jackal. The idea would be you would have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and each of the tiers would be 3 levels. And so, yeah, you would multi-class at 4 instead of 5. Which
would be sweet.
But then at level 4, you would be a third of the way through the game because it goes to 12, not to 10. So, yeah. Mark says, be a shape-shifting druid. You will win Daggerheart. Yeah. That I mean, again, the thing about the druid, while I do think that it is quote unquote too good, I will say, by the way, I will say that when I was first doing the druid I remember reading the Powerful Beast and I was like, this is so messed up. Why does the Powerful Beast get +1 to strength and +3 evasion? And people were like, oh, it makes sense because it's an elephant. I was like, no, it doesn't make any sense. And then in their first bit of errata, they were like, yeah, they know that doesn't make sense. It was supposed to be reversed. And I was like, all right, at least there's some justification for that.
Well, we know that Tim is 100% going to lean into this rogue assassin thing. That's his play style. He loves that kind of stuff. And if he's a ribbit, I mean, it seems to work pretty well too. He can just be like,
Okay. Yeah.
Smith is probably gonna be a spellcaster.
I don't know what Smith's going to be. I mean, he's a
spellcaster.
He's always an X factor. You never know what he's going to be. You never know.
He's also very he'll do what the party needs. Like he's like, what do I need to be? Because I can be anything.
But I don't really think that's really a thing in this game. You know what I mean?
That's fair. I mean, Smith's gone druid before. He's been a druid.
He was a druid in our Forbidden Lands,
right? Yeah. Yep. So
his last PF2 character was a sorcerer wizard. So there you go.
He likes the complex characters. He likes the fiddle. So I could see him going that route. I don't mind being a big smasher. What was the dwarf giant called? You said.
Well, it was just called the dwarf giant. I was saying it's like a mole.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Which is from Dark Sun, which is a dwarf human hybrid, but they are like 6'8", 6'8", 275, all muscle, like just
to me.
Yeah, in Fabio Ultima, his character was kind of like an elementalist druid as well.
Tim's on Twitch. He said, I'm probably gonna go assassin, druid for second place, rogue third place.
There you go.
So that's where Tim's leaning. I think that fits Tim perfectly.
But even then, like, Tim wanted, because we had talked about making an assassin when we first saw the game, and then Tim had some ideas for how he was going to build the assassin class, and I'm like, hey, it's just in playtest. It's not even an official assassin class. I'm like, maybe we just go with our own thing, because what I was going to say is,
that's true. You could,
It's just from the void, because we kind of got distracted here, but one of the things that we want to do also with this actual play is, remember, it is my goal, it is my intention to produce a monthly zine of Daggerheart stuff for players and for GMs, and to do that with the help of people from the Patreon, and hopefully give them more than an attaboy, and to really give them some sort of compensation for their work and their time, and try to put together a zine that we can be proud of. But one of the things that I think is going to be really cool is if we could use some of those ideas and play test some of that mechanics that we're making for our zine and play test it on our show, because then people could see that stuff and we get to get some practical experience of actually play testing it. You can kind of see it maybe working or not working live, and we can kind of be like, hey, well, maybe this is a problem. I think that'll be really, really cool. So part of my idea is like, while I want to make sure that we're showcasing Daggerheart, I mean, I also think it's a good vehicle for us to sort of showcase some of our own ideas as well. And so, I mean, a void class, I'm totally fine with people playing it, but understand it's not official. So like,
neither is, I mean, we are using the rules, but we will be doing our own custom frame. So why not?
Yeah. So yeah, that's the basic, that's basically gist of it. So yeah, like for example, I agree with a lot of people that feel like the assassin's ability doesn't really feel very assassin-like. In fact, I feel like the assassin should have sneak attack. I feel like the Nightwalker feels like more of an assassin class than a rogue class. But then it's like, well, what is a rogue? And I'm like, well, I don't know, because it's kind of a whole thing. So I like the idea of the mechanics for me aren't like locked in stone in that respect. Yeah, I did see that the assassin poison. I wanted knowledge, Eric, but I'm okay with finesse.
They want the poison dart frog for Tim.
Oh, because Tim would be an executioner for sure, I'm sure. But
you apparently are at 92 likes, Derek.
Oh shit, I am at 92 likes.
That's what Mark T said.
All right, well done. In that case, what we'll do is we're gonna end the show at 9. Today.
Okay.
And so what we'll do is you guys hang out with us for another, half hour, or even 20 minutes, and we'll do the giveaway before we end the show.
Sweet.
So
love it.
And that'll be really cool. So anyways,
do you have to like put that up? How you been doing that giveaway thing? It's been different.
Yeah, I just put it up and then people hit join. So I'll put it up in a
You guys ready for me to win this?
You already have one, motherfucker. But yes,
we should join. I'm ready.
So, but yeah, anyways, I just think that there are some wonkiness in some places to Daggerheart, but I mean, I'm trying to figure out, I like certain things, and
what's Sentinel? What's Winged Sentinel?
So
That's
there's
the Seraph thing.
Yeah, there's two Seraph subclasses. One is the Winged Sentinel, and the which is basically a paladin with wings.
Yeah, talk to me.
And
Will was talking about it. And I'm looking it up.
And then the other one is the sort of like divine weapon. Yeah. So the Winged Sentinel, you fly on with your wings of light, and you can, fly away, and you kind of have like a, sort of like a ghostly, like an impressive visage. You have this almost angelic quality to you. And then the Divine Wielder just has like a spirit weapon that they can like throw out like a lightsaber that they can like, hit multiple people with it and have it return to your hand. And,
Yes, the Winged Sentinel is way cooler. Got it.
Which is funny that you say that, because I think the Divine Wielder is way cooler.
Nah,
but that's what I think is really, really cool about this game is that, two people could look at a class and I think one is cool and I think you think another one's cool.
But the one thing I don't like about the Seraph, so I liked playing the religious cleric person in the games because it felt like I was like a scholar, like a devotee of the faith. But this Seraph feels like it's like angelic, like it is like very the element, the avatar. Like I like being imperfect and like in the faith and like spreading that gospel around. Like I remember we saw prostitutes at the place and I was trying to convert them. Like, it was funny and cheeky. This feels like I'm like kind of, I mean, just looking at this, I feels like I'd play a cocky character, like very like, I am this person.
I mean, Seraph does not have any, there's no alignment or anything like that. Like you don't even have to be like devoted technically to a god. So like, you might be like an erstwhile, like you were granted divine power and you don't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't have that kind of like, you're not structured and locked into the sort of the morality thing. The other thing what's important to remember is that in this game, like flavor could be whatever you want it to be. But once that's the flavor, that's the flavor. The only thing that matters is that, the mechanics. But like, from a fiction perspective, it could be whatever you want. You could literally have feathered wings, or you could have like divine glowing sort of like almost like energy wings, right? Like it could be, whatever you want. Hell, it could even be like archangel mechanical wings, like from X-Men. So there's kind of
archangel.
Yeah. So once you can kind of create a lot of different story elements based off of different ways of presenting the game, like, I think Will is right. Like you could structure it as their draconic wings, they get an ability called,
especially if you played that draconic class.
Right. If you were a Dracona Winged Sentinel, you could literally just be a dragon person, but with wings who can fly.
So where do I find the fighter that got renamed to the Brawler?
So that's on the Void. So you have to do a Google search.
Yeah, I'm on the Void for Daggerheart.
Okay, so if you're
it talks about the Witch class and the Assassin class.
All right, so
there's the Warlock. Oh, here it is, Brawler.
Yeah,
perfect, finally. Okay, download. Let me just take a gander.
Yeah.
So where are the two things you get to be for this guy?
So the
martial artist.
Yeah, so the Brawler can either be a martial artist or the Juggernaut bitch. So the martial artist gets these like different stances that they can enter, and like you can kind of like customize different abilities based off what stance you're in.
Okay.
And then the Juggernaut is just a big huge pugilist.
I do like the Juggernaut from the game, but I think it's just really, I don't know. I'm so torn because my playstyle is going to be ending up more in this realm. It's going to be warrior or brawler. Well, that's just my playstyle, but like
that's your style,
Yeah.
I mean,
the martial artist, you don't use a weapon, you fisticuffs.
Yes. Well, actually, specifically, you get a special class ability that says that it's called I am the weapon. It says when you do not have any weapons equipped, your evasion goes up, and your unarmed strikes are considered a melee weapon, and they do D10 plus D6 damage, and that scales as you go up. So eventually, you'll do 2D10, 2D6, 3D10, 3D6, et cetera, et cetera. They punch good. But I want to be very clear about something here. When people are talking about these like mixed ancestries, it would be very weird to me. It would be very strange to me if somebody actually played that class as like a literal hybrid of those classes or those races.
What do you mean?
Like obviously there's going to be examples of this. Like if somebody was like a human and an elf and they were like, oh, I'm a half elf. Like, okay. But like if somebody is like a simian dwarf, I wouldn't really literally think that like a gorilla fucked a dwarf. You know what I mean? Like that's not like, I would just imagine you're taking and making a new ancestry that is that ancestry. You're just using the simian and the dwarf to sort of
Well, that's what I would do if we did was it the mole? What did you say, mule?
The mole. Yeah, the mole.
Oh, the mole.
Well,
okay.
well, derogatorily in Dark Sun, people will call them mules because, you know, they're making fun of the fact that they're just like, you know, big thing.
But we would be like, okay, mechanically I'm using human giant, but it's a separate subclass. But in that case, it actually makes sense a little bit.
Right. But yeah, so any case, but yeah, the brawler, I mean, you know, they punch, you know, but I mean, like, that's okay. The game is about combat to a certain
extent. I just want to be, I want to be interesting. I want to be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's that's a great place to be, you know?
Yeah. The Seraph seems too cocky for me. I don't know. Like, I don't mind a cleric, but the Seraph just seems like, as I'm reading it more, I feel like I'm all about myself.
I mean,
that might be how I am in real life.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, but you could also be a humble defender of the faith. You know, you could be
that's what I would like to be, is something like that.
Yeah. So, you know, but I mean, that Bob, ultimately it's whatever you want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we'll see how session 0 goes as we start talking about the frame, and I can kind of play into what we're talking about. Like, you know, if we're like scoundrels, like trying to make our way up in the world, you know, being this like angelic being seems kind of weird. Right.
I think Steve has the best advice. Bob, be Bob. We will accept you. You know, don't try to be what you think people want you to be. Be what you.
I don't care what they want me to be. A ribbit. I'm not being a ribbit, but I like challenging myself. So like, you know, being a barbarian every time I play, because that's what I lean into is whatever. But I had a ton of fun playing as Shugenju in Legend of the Five Rings, and that is nothing I'm used to playing.
Right. That's true. You know, and ultimately too, I mean, I do think that you should play something that you're going to find interesting and challenging, but I also think that you should find something that's going to be, you know, something that you feel like you can play well and enjoy and not feel like super stressed out and broken down about it. You know, because I've seen you play spellcasters in Pathfinder 2, and I've seen you basically start to like melt down.
I'm going to avoid that in this. I don't want to play a spellcaster.
Well, like you could be a spellcaster, but I would say don't be a codex spellcaster. A lot of classes are spellcasters. Like the Seraph is a spellcaster.
Oh, okay.
You know, like sure, they might have, you know, abilities and swords, but they get access to the Splendor domain, and the Splendor domain gives them access to spells and abilities and stuff like that. So, you know, in fact, there's only 2 classes in the game that aren't spellcasters, and that's the
warrior and the brawler,
the warrior and the guardian, and then the brawler is expansion.
Okay,
but the warrior and the guardian are the only 2. You know, in the core game, everybody else is some kind of spellcaster. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I got to think about that. Maybe I would be like a Seraph, like a protector of the innocent type of bring truth and justice to the world type person. Yeah. But then maybe I could be either a giant human hybrid or a giant dwarf hybrid or something funny or whatever, just something different. But
Quest, does it break the class or game if you just swap a domain for one outside your class? Yes, no, and maybe. So I say yes because they did playtest these domains to be used, the Withdo domains. And they have said, they've gone on, I don't know if they've gone officially on record, but they have said that there are some domains. Apparently one of them is Codex plus Arcane, which apparently are quote unquote busted and aren't supposed to be designed to use together because they kind of represent different abilities and different sized of things. So like, you know, they're supposed to be complementary. So if you had them both at the same time, you just have too much ability. But the other thing is, I say no, because it's not really a game where the balance is so important that it matters anyways. You know, like if something's really a problem, just deal with that as it comes up in your game and don't sweat it. You know, my advice is to try it the way it is, but you know, ultimately, you know, you can do whatever you want. I'm just saying, I know that they have said that these classes and these domains were sort of play tested together. If you start, you know, doing stuff that's off label, your results may vary. You void the warranty. That's what void domain really, or the void playtest really means. It means you void the warranty for sure. I don't know that we're going to see a barbarian class because I think that I don't know. We'll see. I think, yeah, I mean, there's already kind of elements in there. Like the blade domain literally has an ability called Rage Up and an ability called Reckless. So, like, if you want to be a barbarian, you can just be a warrior. They're just kind of, I mean, a barbarian is just a warrior, So, yeah, in this particular game, Cranley, I agree with you, which is the balance that matters the most is the balance between everyone's enjoyment. And I think that's true. Normally, that can sometimes be a bullshit term, but in a game like this, I think it's actually quite true. All right, I'm gonna get the thing up.
DM Rawlings from the channel was like, you should play an Infernus Seraph and have this like weird stuck in a weird place your character is trying to play out, which I thought was quite interesting. Especially because I just watched that sick movie, K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix, which is all the hotness right now, where the person is like half demon, half hunter.
It sounds like it's some edgelord shit.
Dude, it's legit. And the soundtrack is super sweet. It's the hottest fire right now. Number 1 on Netflix.
Sounds terrible.
But Infernus Seraph does sound quite interesting. Yes, Jackal, my daughter's watched it like 4 times now. And I've been hearing the soundtrack in the car, and they're all great songs.
For what?
K-pop Demon Hunters.
All right. Oh, there we go. So type !join to join the giveaway. So we're going to be doing a giveaway. And we got it coming in hot, as they say.
Exclamation join everywhere.
Yes. So if you will get your name on this list here.
What does it even take the people off of Twitch also?
It sure does.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know it worked like that. That's awesome.
So yeah, so this is remember it's only for people in the United States. So if you win and you give me an address that's not in the United States, sorry, you're not getting it. We will eventually do something for people overseas, at least Europe. Beowulf always joins and then says, if I win, I'm giving it to Thaddeus or something like that. So
we do have like randomly, gracious patrons.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, but every time I try to do a giveaway, like we did this massive giveaway. All right, like it was $1,000.
Yep, and it was the one Ryan won.
Yeah, it was the one Ryan won. So we did $1,000 giveaway for our patrons, and we have this big wheel that everybody who enters gets put into a different section of the wheel, and it spins, and it lands on our patron Ryan by literally 1 pixel separating him between the next person, which was I think Goblins and Androids maybe, and Ryan's
right.
And Ryan was like, oh man, and everyone's like, oh my God, it was so close. And then Ryan goes, yeah, it's cool. You can split it 50-50. He can take 500. I'll take 500, and then like, it's like nobody ever wants to win, they just want that. So by the way, Bob, we may have to get those things into overdrive. Cause if we're going to be playing Daggerheart here at the studio, we're going to need some terrain. We're going to need some scattered terrain.
I got terrain. It just depends on what we're playing.
No, I want a good terrain, Bob. Not your
good terrain.
Not your garbage 40K. Everything's orc.
I got everything. What you need? I got. Remember all that ancient giant terrain I brought over to Smith's? That was all good stuff. It's just unpainted right now. You just got to tell me what the frame we're actually playing is, and then I can get the terrain for that and start painting it.
I know. That's why I said I might even have to get a 3D printer just to get some. Just to get some minis printed up or something like that.
Well, I can handle a pretty good workload with the printers. You just gotta let me know. Like if we all want minis and we all do like Hero Forge or something like that, I can easily print. Those are like $8 or under $10 for just. I mean, Smith would get a colored one done, but I can print them like that day.
Yeah, there you go. Cranley says I'm planning on investing in a 3D printer for terrain and minis. The printers are so good now. Like
they're so good.
Like what would you say, Bob? 4K printer good enough for minis?
That's what I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the 8Ks, but you don't need that.
Right, that's what I was saying.
Sure, but from a distance, you don't need it.
That's what I'm saying. They have the, if you were trying to like the people that I don't know, paint on a YouTube channel or something like that, I'm sure they have 8K, but like, yeah, I've seen the 4K printers and the printed minis, and it's totally fine. No, 4K.
And these big ones, you could just pull them out of the box. These bamboos, they're like, you pull them in the box and they're ready to go. There's no setup.
4K means 4K resolution.
Yes, sorry. No, my 4K printer was like $100.
Yeah, and they're so cheap. Like if you get like an insane one with like different types of filament, like I saw one the other day that was being advertised on somebody's YouTube channel where it can like print like 2 different types of what is it, PLA? Is that the term or whatever?
Well, they have the ones that can do like 4 or 5 multicolors.
No, this wasn't about color.
Different types of filament.
Yeah, that's different types. Like where it's like
that's pretty. They have the P tag and the
types. It could print like hard plastic and also like a softer plastic.
That's pretty cool
in the same print. And I thought that was really awesome.
Well, I'm currently, the one behind me was like $500. That's a filament printer, and that thing is a workhorse. That thing could print all night, and it's crazy.
People are asking a bunch of questions here, Bob, about your
the
setup.
bamboo one that's the P1P single filament. I just do PLA and you're good to go, and no big deal. The resin one, it's a little more dangerous because it's resin, and I have an exhaust fan and the carbon filter, and then I also bought the curing station and the UV station, and that was like, I feel like it was like $350 like for all 3 for like a Black Friday sale. And that's what I would wait for Black Friday and get them all and just have it, but they just take up room.
What's the size?
You definitely need to exhaust them, right?
What's the size of the plate on your bamboo?
Oh, the big boy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you don't have to measure it. You can just show me.
Yeah. It's like about 10 by 10. Pretty big.
Oh, that's huge. Okay.
Yeah. The resin is way smaller.
How long?
The big boy.
Like if you wanted to do like a 10-man squad on that 10 by 10, how long would that take you to print at like 28 millimeter scale?
I don't know, a few hours.
Yeah. See, that's amazing.
But that I would never do it there. That actually would take longer than the resin printer.
Right. You would do that one on the resin. Makes sense.
Because if you just want to print one model, the filament
right.
is faster, but the head has to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Like,
right.
You can print it. I don't know how big my plate
right,
is.
Because that does that with the laser, right? And it cures it, and then it comes up out of the resin bath. Yeah,
that's all about height. So it's like if you have a bunch, just a single unit. Like I think I printed my son a bunch of like basically Grim Guard people, and they were like 28 mil. I mean, it was like 3 hours to print like a whole squad, and you just pack the plate and then cure, boom, cure, and clean and cure and spray paint, and the next day he's painting them.
All right. So by the way, your last opportunity, type _join to get in if you're not in there. But we did get a super chat from John contributing to the printer fund. We got.
John. We will be using if we're doing Hero Forge minis or whatever. If, like say we don't have the models. I think we'll do Hero Forge, which would be great. We'll just print them right on my resin. They'll look fantastic for the channel. We can paint them, or unless the people we want to do color, which is so much more expensive, but it'll look great. Now, if we have a certain frame that we have a certain type of terrain we'll look for, I can print all that on the bamboo filament printer, or I might already have a bunch of it because I have so many different types of terrain. I do have a lot of sci-fi, but we're not going to do sci-fi.
There you go.
Resume using, I don't know, just some of that 2.0 stuff. ABS like 2.0 from Elegoo. It's the most flexible one I could find that works with it. It's really flexible. So
yeah, Eric, I actually, because I just bought a bunch of minis at Origins, and I still have like 10,000 minis from Reaper for Kickstarter Bones. But I sat with the Army Painter guys for like
an hour. Super cool to talk to.
For like an hour, Bob.
He tried to get me. I mean, he got me in there. But I'm like, I already own all this stuff.
I know. I did.
Love Army Painter.
But I sat there with the Armor Painter guys at Origins in the booth for like an hour. And he was talking about everything, and we were talking about slap chop. We were talking about, because again, when I was last painting miniatures, there was no speed paint. There was no contrast paint. It was all wet blend, or it was, base coat and then go in with a wash or an ink to do the deep details, and then, layering and do layering or dry brushing on top of layering, and then, rinse and repeat. And I understand that that's still how you're going to get the best quote unquote results, right? Like if you want like a golden demon quality. but I don't want a golden demon quality. I just want it to look
We'll
good.
just get a Solana to do it.
Yeah, well, right, but when I saw, like, I'd never seen speed paint painted in person. I've seen it on YouTube. I've seen it on like Goober Minis and some of those other places. But like seeing it in I was like, this can't be this right, you know.
So
but watching him do it in person, I was like, I would almost be content to Black Prime, right? Hit it with hit it with a Zenithal, and then literally just pick like a muddy earth tone and just do the whole mini and be good that. Like literally just like monochromatic. I think it looks so good just like that. That's how
my whole wall's got, you guys can't see it on camera, but it's just filled with just paint.
That's how good I am. All right, here we go.
Almost all speed paints.
All right, so our last person to enter is Radlick, Radelk, and they are in there. Okay, here we go. Our winner is, drum roll, Pathfinder PhD.
Oh, screw that guy.
Hey.
He can drive that one down. He's an Akron.
You know, the other person who won is in Hudson.
Oh man, this is great for us.
Hey,
money.
Congrats, Pathfinder PhD. Look at that. Another patron won. That's fantastic. And Pathfinder PhD got to hang out with us at Origins, and that was really fun.
Yeah, he said next year, though, next year's gonna be the year he's gonna like have to go into the hall. He resisted going in.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I could go in there and be buying too much stuff because I know like Darth.
Darth bought a lot. Darth bought a lot. Well, congrats, Pathfinder PhD. Love to see our, with Platinus won, Pathfinder PhD won. So we're definitely getting some patrons taking home some Daggerheart games, and that's awesome. I'm super glad to see it, and that's really awesome.
Pathfinder was a Crabkin in the Pirate Bane game, and he was a member. He was a follower of the Hard God. The Shell Father. The Shell Father commands. So last thing that I want to talk about, Bob, and again, congrats, Pathfinder PhD. Before we've been talking about Daggerheart. So there was the second place voting besides Daggerheart, and like, what are we going to play, and like, how are we going to structure it, and what are going to be some of the ways that, like, what's our schedule going to be like, and hopefully we talked about some of that with you guys. What is the status of Dragontide? I printed some stuff out. I'm ready to start. I'm ready. So the people who want to play Dragontide, you're ready? Is that what you're saying? I would need to. I print out my document that I had sent you a while back, and besides the some of the town actions that need to be fleshed out, I have it. I can run with it very soon, but that'd be like Dragontide Alpha Light, because I really do think, even though I'm okay with just playing Dragonbane, right, that the town phase would be a lot of fun. And the stuff that Derek was creating was actually going to be pretty fun. But I'm not Smith. You're not Smith, but also this Daggerheart thing's going to be busy, and we're running games on the channel. You have other stuff we got to get done. We're going to get easing going for this. That stuff's important. And I think I can run with Dragontide. But it's gonna be light. It's not gonna have the town actions that Derek's having. But maybe people will start to like, oh, what if we had this, and we can start to like really play with it, and we can start to add stuff in as we go. I think with a few tweaks, it can be ready very soon. Minus the whatever the heck we have to do for Foundry. So now we're paying for more servers. So ask Cranley wants to know, what is Dragontide? Ooh, it is a KOLC mega game for Dragonbane. So if you're familiar with what we talked about with Pathfinder 2, is we play a giant mega game for Pathfinder 2 called Northern Reaches, which is a bunch of GMs and a bunch of players. So it's like playing a giant MMO, like Western March style, but there's not just one GM. There's multiple GMs where everyone's affecting the world, not only GMs, but the players. You play games with many GMs, all in one shared universe, one shared world. And the idea for Dragonbane, because it's a little bit of an easier system to do a mega game with, was Derek had this great idea of calling it Dragontide, and we would have little islands, which would be like your sites, and you would go to the island, you have to boat, and there's ship rules and stuff like that. We had a lot of it going. So patron tier for Dragontide would be the same as Northern Reaches, which is champion level. Rayo Man says, if KOC has a West Marches Daggerheart game, I will up my Patreon membership. Well, there's been a joke about Daggertide when
And they're like, oh, maybe Dragon Tide needs to become a Dagger Tide, you know? And the thing is, I doing a fiction first game like that in a massively multiplayer game, I think is a little bit problematic. Although I will say, Rayo Man, one of my reasons I didn't even bother looking into it is because we are pretty locked in to Foundry. And at the time, they weren't going to support Foundry, or at least they hadn't officially supported it. But now they've officially supported Foundry. I've seen the Foundry-born module development. Looks good. If the Foundry-born thing is really solid, and we have a really good Foundry platform, and there's interest in it, maybe there could be some sort of mega game for Daggerheart. I think that would be really, really cool. Ultimately, we just want to create the thing about a mega game is there's a critical mass of people that needs to play it. It's not if you only have 15 people, it's not a mega game.
Yep.
So, in our experience, you need to have at least 30 is like really a good number. Obviously 50 is better, but like once you get down to like 20, it starts to basically become feeling like there's like 2 or 3 parties. So with some of these games outside of Pathfinder 2 or 5th edition D&D, which we don't do, but it's been hard to get people to play. So, one of my biggest concerns about a game like Dragon Tide is that Dragonbane, while very cool and fun and is popular, isn't as popular as even Pathfinder 2. And, Pathfinder 2, it's there, but we've had times when at the end of a season or something like that, like it can get a little bit low in the population. So I was worried that people weren't going to be able to play. So that's why my idea with Dragon Tide is I wanted to sort of take it and create a game that could be played by people even if they can't like sit down and actually play in 3 or 4 hour sessions, and can like kind of almost be played. I don't want to say play by post, but yeah, like have an option to that. That's the stuff that Bob's talking about that might be a little bit light and pre-alpha, because
if Dragon Tide's releasing, it's going to have to be before. If not, Derek doesn't have the time right now to go through it, and unless I become a mechanics board game master overnight, some of it I can play around with, but it might not be as interesting as Derek if he sits on and actually has time to design it. Right.
The key was to create an actually like compelling, interesting thing. Now I'm not saying that we don't, Bob, there's some stuff in there that and you'll be able to do stuff, but yeah.
Well, and you never know, like Derek might get a free time here and there and be like, oh, I got this cool idea for like random ability in Dragon.
You would think
throw it in.
You would think that with me not having a job, these last 2 months, that I would have infinite time, but somehow I find, but then again, I was streaming for like 30, 40 hours a week. So that's, that's kind of it. But yeah, I think, I think Dragonbane provides a nice contrast to the complexity of Pathfinder 2, because Northern Reach is very popular. I think we had an all-time high last week. I think we had 30.
Did you see people were playing on, was it Friday or Monday night?
We had like 5 full groups. There was like
5 full games going at the same time.
Yeah,
it was just wild.
There was like 30 plumping players playing simultaneously. For those of you who don't know, we host our Foundry on Forge, and we host so many people that even though we were kind of following their rules, like Forge reached out to us and said, "We're going to ban your account. Like you are crashing our server. Like what are you doing?" And I told them, I said, "Well, we have a group of people who play," and they said, we got to come up with something, so they actually had to make us a new billing tier because we basically use this thing nonstop because we have so many people playing Pathfinder 2 through Knights of Last Call. But my hope is that we could kind of provide a contrast to that with Dragon Tide, because Pathfinder 2 isn't for everybody, and it is kind of complicated, and it's a little bit more crunchy. And, Dragonbane is a little bit more, mirth and mayhem, and let the good times roll. And so I think that'll be kind of provide a nice, contrast to that, you know?
And like you said, I have a feeling it's going to be low in GMs and players to start, and maybe not. I hope it'll be higher, but it might not get a lot of traction. And then therefore you're like, do I make Derek spend months of work for a game that might not like really take off?
And here's the thing,
we can play Dragonbane. Everyone wants to play Dragonbane.
I am happy to do that because that's how I operate, and I don't really think about things practically.
I want to be easy and out.
But now that I make my living off of the money from the channel, I do have to put certain business considerations first, which is unfortunate, but it is the case it is. And yes, it is $10 a tier. $10 a month for that tier, quite a steal in value. And I have to reiterate that we were just looking at values the other day. Like if you go to play online, most of those places are 20 to 30, to even $40 or $50 a session to play in a single session with one GM. And I've heard, by the way, we have hundreds and we've had thousands of patrons in Knights of the Last Call over the last 4.5 years. And I can't even begin to tell you how many people, both current and former members, have all said the same thing, which is the quality of game masters, not just typically, but I mean like almost with like a 90% plus acceptance rate is higher. It's just as high or higher than anything that anyone's ever played before. We get really good people in our games and running our games. So you're basically getting what I consider to be professional quality GMs. And instead of playing one game that's going to be $40 or $50, you pay $10 a month. And some of these people are playing 4 or 5 games a week. There was
35 games, I think Jackal said last week.
Yes. So some of these people are playing
ridiculous. That I was like, I used to log that.
and there are people who are playing different games. There are some people who play Pathfinder 2 and Call of Cthulhu and 4th edition D&D and Fabula Ultima. I should also point out that the $10 tier is also our publication tier. Now, in the past, we've only done a handful of publications, our Battlecry zines, and then we stopped doing them because I suck. But if we do create a Daggerheart zine and it gets published, it would get published at that $10 champion tier. So, anyways, yeah. So lots of cool stuff coming. And again, Bob and I, so this stream was basically, about Bob and I here to tell you about like, yes, look, we are working on stuff. We want to make cool stuff. I would love to get to a point where Knights of the Last Call is successful enough that I could pay my bills and that this is like a legit part-time job for Bob, or hell, maybe even a world where Bob just works for me and, I pay his bills. I think that
don't tease me.
I know. That would be an amazing situation to be in. And obviously in the past, I never had a opportunity to do that. But now that I can focus on this game, or focus on this channel because I don't have a job, that's what I'm trying to go for. So I think it'd be really cool. I think it'd be really, really fun. So
I think I'm really excited for the studio to be back.
Yeah, me too.
It was a lot of fun going to the studio to even just do like a talk.
Yeah.
We were just talking about topics. Playing games or whatever, and just the environment was really cool. Being in person was really cool, and I think it's gonna be a little more quaint and tight, but I think it's gonna be really cool to have it back at your house up and running. So when you know me, I'm ready to like move and build stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'm excited to get it up and running again, and I think it's gonna be really fun for the channel and fun for you. I think just having it right there is gonna be awesome. Also nice.
And I see that Bob answered Hard Bushido. Yeah. So our GMs get bonus tickets. Our tickets is sort of like our KOLC currency. You use them to enter giveaways. You use them to enter raffle contests for Amazon gift cards, Drive-Thru RPG gift certificates. That $1,000 prize that we were talking about, that was entered with tickets. So if you have, now I can't like pay you, but like if you want to get merch or enter contests and win cool, fun prizes and stuff like that, use tickets. And one way to get tickets is by GMing. So, well, to be clear, the new studio is not going to be as awesome as the old studio. The new studio is my bedroom. Literally, I moved out of my bedroom and I moved into a small little office. That's where I put my bed. And I'm trying to take my bedroom, which is bigger, but it's still not big by any stretch of the imagination. My bedroom would be, if I had to guess, is maybe like 150 square feet, 140 square feet. If I had to guess, give or take. The studio was like 900. So at least the side that we used. The other side was.
We had angled walls and lighting and stuff. Now we're going to be like in a box.
We're going to be in a box.
We can have it again, which I think is going to be really fun.
So again, I'm not trying to say like don't get your hopes up, but like, let me see if I can grab it.
It's not going to look as good, but we are going to have the dungeon walls behind us. We're going to have mics and we're all gonna be together, which is gonna be great.
Right. And that's gonna be the key there, is that we're gonna have the energy, we're gonna be there in person. And what's in the box? Yeah, George, us. That's who's gonna be in the box. And hopefully we've learned from our past mistakes and past experiences to try to create something that we think is gonna be really, really cool and the vibes are very important to us, but I do want it to look good. And I want it to sound good, and that's important to me. So we're going to try to take what we've built. Bob and I spent far too much time on all this shit to just let it go to waste. And we'll try to make it live again. So hopefully the next time we'll be live will be Sunday. Bob is going to probably come over. We're going to try to. We're going to get some of our studio flats, some of our setting flats over to the house, get them set up, and we'll hopefully stick a camera in a corner, and maybe we can have you guys watching and chime in and hang out with us as we kind of do. If you remember, there was the infamous studio build series, so it sounds like that'll be back.
The painting stream was the one, just smooth jazz was
with the smooth jazz painting stream. Yeah, so I don't know if we're gonna go quite that intense, but it'll be something good. So. With any luck, though, at least I won't be so disgusted by myself because I'm like 50 or 60 pounds lighter than I was in that stream. So at least there's that. Yeah, Root actual play coming back August 22.
I think it's gonna be sweet. I think having the studio there, it just lends us to be able to do so many things quick. Like too, like you're like, oh, this like really cool thing is happening in the TTRPG community. Like Bob Smith, come over, or like Tim, come over, George, come over, like whoever we need,
right? And
we're gonna talk about this thing, or we have room to play, and I think it's gonna be sweet.
Yeah, I mean, in full transparency, between the rent and the insurance and the utilities, because I'd have internet, electric, gas, insurance, the place. I had to have the insurance for them to do it. I paid like $1,400 a month or something, $1,500 a month for the studio, and at that time, that's about what I made from the channel. So. If we had a really good month and we had like a lot of good tips, maybe I made $2,000. And so like I might've made a couple $100, after I, paid for all my bills and stuff like that. So the studio was really cool, but it was very expensive, and it was too expensive for a channel of our size is the long and short of it. So being at home makes me a lot more comfortable because I used to have this kind of like pressure, to like, we got to make this studio worth it. I'm paying so much money and
we'd like meet like once a month.
A couple times a month. And so it made me feel like kind of resentful, not like bad. Like I was never mad about it.
Now it's multi-purpose, which is great.
Right. So that I think that'll be a lot more fun. So, all
right, folks. You're right. You can up your insurance.
Well, after the fire, let me tell you something. I've got fucking insane insurance. Okay. I'm hoping my house burns down. Because I'm going to collect a fat ass paycheck. So it'll be all right. Well, thanks, Bob, for joining me.
Of course.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you to John, to Mark, to Synchros, to Edward, to Tony, to Eric Corso, to Aaron, to the AGM himself, Jace, the alternate game master, Jacob Online, and Michael. And as well, everybody else who supported us and followed us on Twitch. Remember, as a reminder, if you don't have any money to give us, which is totally acceptable and fine. I mean, I don't have a job either. But you do have Amazon Prime. You can go over and follow us on twitch.tv/Knights of Last Call. And you can give us your Amazon Prime sub. And you're paying for it anyways. If you don't give it away, you lose it. So if you don't give it to us, you should give it to somebody. But if you think that we are worth it, I'd love for you to sub for us on Twitch. You can do that once a month. So unfortunately, it doesn't stick around. You do have to do it each month. But each month, maybe you give it to a different content creator. Hopefully, we continue to earn that free Prime sub. We'd love it for you. A couple bucks in our pocket doesn't cost you anything extra. And finishing us off with one last super chat is OED with the clarion call of dagger hype. Thank you, OED. I appreciate it. Yeah, the dagger hype is pretty cool. That's right. The knights are no longer in exile. They have broken free of Chateau d'If and are ready for revenge. Bob, do you know what the Chateau d'If is from?
Chateau d'If.
Yeah, Chateau d'If.
My first thought was Princess Diaries.
So not correct.
Chateau d'If.
Yeah, think more like 1800s France.
No chance.
Okay. Tim said, "Wow, not even close. This hurts."
What is it from?
Let me see if I wonder if you've ever even seen this movie.
Well, that's my point. I'm pretty sure I have.
All right. Most people call this the best revenge story ever told.
No idea.
There was a movie made with it. Jim Caviezel played the main character.
I don't know who Jim Caviezel is.
All right. The book and movie are both named after a fictional noble.
Noble? Like Hamlet or something?
All right. Well, people in chat are saying it already. Way to spoil it, guys.
What is it? Where are we at?
The Count of Monte Cristo.
Never seen it.
Oh my God! What is wrong with you?
No chance I was getting that right.
And even though I know that Luis Guzman plays a sort of portmanteau of multiple characters, sort of an amalgamation of characters from the book, his character in the movie is so good. I am your man for life. He's so good. He's just so good. It also is an okay. Look at Tim even said it. I am your man for life. This is how important that line was in that movie in our lives. It's so good. That's true, Rayo man. Bob doesn't even get.
I do get them.
Okay.
I just can't tell you like exact scenes and stuff. But yeah, I've not seen Count of Monte Cristo.
Well, you know what? We tried many times to get hype built up for movie nights.
It still needs to happen.
And nobody ever wants it to happen. Nobody wants to support it. And look, I have to give the people what they want, and nobody wants movie night. Everybody wants first looks. That's all they want is first looks, first looks, first looks, first looks. That is true. Okay, wait. So somebody said, do you get Princess Bride references?
I think so.
But you said Princess Diaries.
Because I get them confused with the other. Princess Bride is the one with Andre the Giant.
Yes, and Princess Diaries is the one with Anne Hathaway.
Yes.
To be clear, I could also
kind of like Anne Hathaway, so
I could probably quote that movie probably pretty well as well.
I mean, right now I'm trying to finish Mad Max Fury Road.
Okay.
The movie that the one where it's like the prequel or something.
Oh, the one with Furiosa.
Yeah. Furiosa Saga or whatever it's called. I'm trying to get through that. So.
Eric says, at least you've seen K-pop Demon Hunters. That's a real thing.
I just told you about it. It's the #1 movie on
No,
Netflix.
I'm saying I thought you were just making that up.
No, and its soundtrack's legit.
Well, wait, I'm going to assume that the soundtrack is K-pop?
Oh, yeah. Guess what? Super catchy, too.
I'm out.
It's so good. A girl K-pop band, and the villain is a boy K-pop band. But they're demons.
Of course,
I'm telling you, it's legit.
Obvious says, do they hunt demons?
Yep. it's sweet.
One of these days, we're going to get Bob to play Monster Hearts.
I thought we were gonna play at Origins. I was down.
Oh, you were down to play Monster Hearts?
I mean, I'd be down just to play. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy it.
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right, everybody, we are gonna be gone. Bob and I should be back Sunday. I hope you all have a very safe 4th of July. If you're here in the United States, stay safe out there. Obviously, not only because of people, fireworks and drinking and all the other stuff that can happen, but also just keep your cool, keep your family safe. It's getting kind of crazy out there. What's the average airspeed of a swallow, African or European? You must know these things. Bob doesn't get that reference either way.
That is from the freaking British humor.
Yes, good enough. You hate this movie, so
I know.
Monty Python
and the Holy Grail.
There you go. Very good.
I knew what you were talking about.
All right.
Because I watched the dang movie and I rewatched it recently, like a year or two ago, and I remember that one was awful, and I hated that movie. I don't even know if I smiled during that movie. It was terrible.
Boothby said that's from the frickin' British humor quotes. That's amazing. Well said, Bob. All right, everybody. Well, on behalf of the Knights of Last Call and our patrons, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time, Sunday, on Knights of Last Call. Studio Build Stream.